And we are live. This is Artcasters Chat 9. And we got a few of us here today. And I'll just introduce from left to right on my screen. We have Jeff.
How you doing? JeffLafferty.net. Was I supposed to do that? I forgot how we did the intros. I set the standard now. Everybody's got to do it.
Yes. And we have Paul.
Hey, how's it going? Pandia.com. Oh, you want more?
Well, we can talk more. We have Scott.
Hey, Scott Circlin. It's circworks.com. And am I supposed to are we just throwing out URLs, or are we telling what we do?
Yeah, we're keeping it short today, I guess.
Okay, cool. Yeah, circworks.com. That's where you can find me. SERKWORKS.
And Peter Palmiotti, and in the future you'll be able to reach me at Humanot Studios. Humanotstudio.com. And yeah, let's like Artcasters group probably doesn't know Paul a lot, so let's do an extended invitation. Well, you do Pandia, the webcomic, which is now collected, and that's all online as well. You can get it at Comixology. And
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
yes. Tell us more.
Yeah, sure. No, I thought I'd done one of these before, but it might have been another art casting. Yes, my name is Paul. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and yeah, I'm probably the only guy who's up at a reasonable hour, which is kind of a first for me doing these things with American artists. It's usually the other way around. You guys are all, just after dinner. It's nice. It's relaxing time for me. It's like 3 in the morning or something like that, so I can make it. But I'm on a break from my day job, which is currently teaching at a private design college. And yeah, I thought I'd jump on board because it'd give me an excuse to just work on some art and just sort of keep in practice as I'm talking. But yeah, I do a sci-fi action adventure comic called Pandia. It's set in Earth's distant future. It's got a destroyed moon which exists as a ring around the Earth, and the heroes are trying to figure out what happened to the moon in hopes of averting a larger disaster, if you can get larger than that.
That's cool.
And you do a lot more. You do, you're doing a lot of commissions work right now, and you just showed us something earlier. I don't know if you want to show everybody.
Yeah, should I bring that up? I'll bring that up. Hang on a second. Let me just go to screen share here. So this is perhaps my proudest commission at the moment. I did this at a comic convention 2 weeks ago. It was Oz Comic Con over in Sydney, and my one and only commission for that day was the 11th Doctor Who fighting the Dinoga and the trash compactor on the Death Star. And yeah, I had a bit of a chuckle and had a bit of a play around with this. It's since been printed and sent out to the guy who commissioned it. He's very, very happy with it. And yeah, no, it's sort of a little bit of a value add that I have to do at conventions just to make the table costs and stuff now. But I found that doing a sketch isn't quite enough. If I tell them that they can get a digital print that looks as good as anything in the portfolio, they usually perk up, and I've probably bargained myself down to a really ridiculously low price. But I got quite a few commissions at an anime convention once, which actually paid more than my way. So it was kind of worth it from that point of view. So it's something I'm going to continue to do. I'll be doing this again at Electronic Boutique's Games Expo in a couple of weeks in Sydney. I've been invited, which is always good to be invited to cons because you don't have to pay. And I'm going to be sitting in, let's see, it's a booth called the Love Sack Lounge, they're bean bags, but he calls them love sacks, and they're going to be doing like a Mario Kart competition, which they do annually there. And he just decided that he wants a couple of people doing commissions there. I got invited along, and so yeah, I'm going to be sitting there drawing game characters, which is really good. So I'm trying to get my Nintendo on and get my Link and Mario and all that sort of stuff, working, so I can figure all that out.
Game characters, that looks like it fit your style like perfectly.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Link is very popular.
Yeah. You go to a lot of cons?
This year I did. This year I went to quite a few because I had book 1 out, and I'd run a Kickstarter campaign around, what was it, March, I think, and that was successful. I made about 10% over what I wanted, so I got all the prints done, and I even got some of the books in local stores. By local, I mean Australia-wide.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hit as many conventions as possible to sell the books, and I had a few hiccups along the way. I mean, I was going to be doing Adelaide and then driving across to Melbourne with a couple of mates to do a convention the following weekend, but as soon as I got to Adelaide, I got a bit of bad news that my grandfather had passed away, so I had to kind of fly back to Sydney, so I missed out on one of the conventions. But besides that, I got to a few more around Sydney, and then a few local libraries have been starting to do these little events. And the funny thing is, the small events actually net me a bigger profit. I don't know why. It seems as though there's a more concentrated crowd. The big events, there's big ticket items, and so people are always paying for, dinner with Orlando Bloom, for instance, where it's something like $650, but the rule list is ridiculous. It's like, okay, you can have dinner with him, but don't look him straight in the eye, don't make any sudden moves, don't talk to him, don't breathe on him, don't touch him, and if you come inside the 2-foot radius of his personal space, well, you're out of here. I'm like, what's the point, really?
Yeah.
But they spend their money on those things, and so then by the time they're coming around to your artist alley, they don't know who I am. They really don't have any money to spend on the small stuff. So libraries and smaller events, you're kind of the star of the show. So people come up and they see all the local artists and they're like, oh, what's this book about? What's that book about? And they're more willing to talk to you, and they generally ply them with drinks, which is really good. There's free alcohol and
Really?
cheese and crackers and stuff. So they're coming straight up to you and just going, yeah, that sounds great. Destroyed Moon, I'm all for that. Awesome. I'll get your book. So yeah, really enjoy those small ones. Next year's going to be a bit of a toughie. I'm hoping to have book 2 out, but not sure if I told you, Peter, we're expecting our second kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So obviously, getting to convention is going to be a little bit difficult.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Do you have one already?
Oh yeah, sorry. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter called Sophia, and she's into everything. Everything that I happen to be doing, so I kind of make it a game with her. She's really into drawing and dancing, and so whenever we're having those arguments about, whose kid is she more like, whenever she's drawing, my wife is like, oh yeah, she's more like you, and then she'll just get up and dance to some song that's come on, and I'll just point to my wife and say, no, your kid.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, my son's actually, he's 3.5 now too, and it's pretty tough. Gets work done sometimes, so. But I can imagine having another one though. It's just like having 2 tornadoes hit your house.
Yeah, I know. When we decided, it was like, yeah, he was up for round 2.
Oh, really?
And we're kind of like rolling up our sleeves, just going, okay, we gotta do this thing, because we know that I hate the baby phase. I've got to be honest.
Oh yeah.
It's just poop and vomit and feeding at all hours and no sleep. But by the time they reach about 3, they're awesome. They're like these little mini people, and you can have conversations with them, and they're in daycare and stuff as well. But yeah, they're just a pleasure. So looking forward to having 2 of those.
Yeah.
At an older age, I think that's sort of. I think you sort of have to think a little bit ahead.
Yeah, the no sleep thing when they were little. I mean, that's like the part that people warned me, but I just had no idea. I thought I used to not get any sleep, but then I realized what no sleep was. Yeah. It's like 6 months of I just have not slept. Starting from when you go to the hospital, I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah. I remember that day. You remember that first day? It's like everyone comes in to visit, and they're like, "Congratulations!" There are tears, there are hugs, and all that, and everyone goes away, and you're kind of like, at one point in the day, you're like, "Now I'm kind of stuck with this thing."
Right. There's that point when you got to go home with it, and you're like, just by ourselves, we're going home. What's coming with us?
Really? They're just gonna hand it over and.
I know.
What?
Are you sure? Yeah, I totally remember that.
Well, all 3 of you have kids.
Yeah.
Scott has kids too.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, this is all bad. I don't really care anymore. Scott's got 6 kids, right, dude?
What's that?
I said you got like 6 kids, right, dude?
Oh, I got 3. Yeah, my youngest is gonna be 10 next month, so.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So that stage that you guys are talking about was ancient history to me. So I remember.
Yeah. You got to join the club, Peter.
Oh, I don't think it's in the cards.
100 Days of Making Comics and Kids. That's your next project.
100 Days of Making Kids. I mean, just people talking about it, all right? It is not the actual.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. You only got 1 book out though, because I just kind of clicked on your site, Paul, and I noticed I thought it said 4 books for some reason, but I clicked away because it kind of slows my internet down.
There's 5 issues, and they're collected in the first trade.
Okay. Did you end up putting out like single issue comics while you were doing them or something?
I did. As I went, it was really sort of testing the convention circuit and sort of where they would purchase them. It started out as a webcomic, and I've sort of kept them online for people to read as a webcomic, but in terms of webcomic readership, it was pretty abysmal. A lot of people that I was following and talking to at the time had modest 2,000 subscribers. I had 80.
Yeah.
And when I got it into print, I found that I actually grew a bigger fan base who liked to read it like physical copies. And so when I got to the end of the first trade, which the first 5 issues, I made a conscious decision to stop doing the webcomic and continue it on in sort of print and digital format, but like for sale, because people were obviously happy to pay for the product, and that's sort of like a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So, like, is there like a digital pay version of it also that you're doing now, or how's it come out? I mean, does it just like the end of each issue a new one comes out, or like just a trade every year or something, or?
I decided after I finished the first trade that I would write the next 5 issues as a trade and sort of give myself this year to really complete the next story. I'm going to split it up into individual issues because it works really great for Comixology.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that a lot of people actually like the digital downloads as single issues. And I might do this thing that once it's ready to be collated and I'm gearing up for the Kickstarter, I might release the single issues, one over, I don't know, 4 weeks or a couple of months or something like that, so people can, to retain visibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've gotten to the point where, well, also in terms of print costs, it's actually more economical to just print and sell trade paperbacks rather than single issue comics. You make a bigger margin, which means that the comic book stores don't, do I say it, cheat you out of more?
Right.
I don't know how much I can reveal about it. I'm not sure how it's over there, but over here, they're starting to promote a lot of Aussie content because Australian content is getting very good. And local production, it's easier to ship to local stores. You can pretty much jump in your car and drive it down to your local comic book store, rather than having to ship it halfway across the world. But they sort of go on this sort of 60-40 split, and if you can't get a product that you're making at least 40% profit on, then you've got to pay the store a couple of bucks to stock it because that's sort of set in stone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think here it's, I mean, if you're going through like a distributor, I think it's pretty much like you're out 70% like right off the bat. I might be low on that. I mean, it's way up there. I'm not super familiar with like how it is now, but back, in the day, I had some friends self-publishing, and like they were going through the distributor Diamond here in the U.S., and I'm pretty sure it was like, it was like 70% was gone to the distribution. But I don't know. Are you, when you're saying like in Australia, are you like distributing yourself, or is there such a thing as a distributor down there that like takes the books and they send them out?
Yes, sorry. I could always go with a distributor. I could, send it to Diamond, and that would get like a worldwide distribution. I'm 100% independent.
Okay.
I sourced a local printer, and you've got Kablam over there that does print on demand. They're still going, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
That's where I do my books, but
yeah,
So
Kablam's a really good.
Or go ahead. I was just gonna say, you go to a real printer, or like not a real one, but like and have a print run done.
No, he's a real printer. He was working in print for ages, and he started working out of his garage, and he got bitten by the comic bug, started doing pretty much all the local comics for a very good price. It was comparable to Kablam, and so he set up this Australian site called Digital Comics on Demand, which he's hoping to service the Australian industry. It makes a lot of sense. I really like Kablam's products. I've gotten issues from them before, but the postage kills me.
Right.
This guy is in Sydney, so I can drive over to his house and pick up the stock. I can send him a file the night before and say, "Oh, look, I need 50 copies of this. Can you do it?" And the next day, he's in his garage, smoking and just going, "Yep, there's your boxes over there." It's just,
Cool.
it's very sort of laid back, but yeah, he's gone. He's trying to really corner the market here in Australia, because there's a lot of people who are independent, want to do comics here, and so there's definitely a demand for his services, and he does put a good product. I've got to say, I'm really happy with the books he prints. He's a stickler for quality. I had no idea about printing, paper, the stocks that were used. I was asking him about, what's the cheapest stock you've got? I'll work in colors that will look good on that. And he goes, no, you need this weight of paper. The color holds better. You get less wastage, and I'll do it for the same price as a cheaper stock.
Cool.
I really couldn't beat his price. So yeah, I get it. I put the orders in myself. I get this guy to print it. I go pick up the books, and then I've just got stock sitting at home, which for conventions I'll just put a box of maybe 20, 40 books in my suitcase, go to the conventions, sell them, or mail them nationwide to the stores that actually want to stock them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I wish like Kablam was like right down the street or something. That'd be great.
Who lives in Florida?
Yeah, I've done a couple books through them. They came out real nice though. I don't know.
Yeah, I use Kablam for mine, and it's nice. I mean, eventually I want to do offset printing because I think I can, if I do a larger print run, I can save a lot more money that way. Because it's I get them printed for around a little over a couple bucks and sell them for $4. So it's not I'm not making a huge profit off of them, but
yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing tough about like selling the single issues is like you said, like the profit off a single comic compared to a trade, it's like so much less,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I don't know. You get buyers
the profit margin is. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny, when I ran the Kickstarter campaign, I already had the print costs nutted out. I had them in my head. I knew exactly what they were going to be. And in the last couple of days, I actually got some printers. One was US based who was offering their services to me. And it's really interesting if you've got the budget to print a fairly large print run of say 500, 1,000, or whatever, and you're willing to wait 3 months. There's generally a lot of printers who will get their business offshore, somewhere around Singapore or China, and the unit cost drops dramatically. For a trade up to, I don't know, 200 pages, perfect bound, you're looking at around $4.50 a book, and that's equivalent. I mean, American Australian dollars are very similar. So in both our currencies, it's a very good price, especially if you're going to sell this trade about $20 a book or something like that. What this means is that you can sell it to a store for what they're asking, 60% retail, and still make a decent margin on it.
Yeah. When you're selling to these comic shops, are they buying them outright, or are they like selling them on consignment?
No, they're buying them outright. They buy them in very small volumes, and so they might sample them and say, okay, look, I'm going to try 3 books in my store. Great. And if they sell, they go, oh yeah, look, I think I'm going to have 5 or 10 this time because I got a lot of interest in it, and I think there's a customer base here. So as an independent, it's generally setting up a personal relationship with the store owner. And it's a slow burn, but it's sort of the advantage of being in a small pond here, with an audience that is kind of recycled every convention,
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. You see the same faces. If you do 3 cons in a row, you see the same people in the same cosplay costume coming up to your table and not buying your stuff.
Like everybody just moves to the next Circus 10 or something. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. But you also see the people who run the individual stores, because they have stands there. They sometimes sponsor these conventions, and so it takes nothing to go up to them and say, hey, this is who I am. This is my book. I see that you stock this guy's book. I use the same printer. If you feel up to it, you can give them a free copy to sample, which sometimes works. Sometimes doesn't, and all you've lost is a few bucks for printing. But in general, if they see your face enough, if you're sort of like a regular convention goer and you have this appearance that you're very serious about producing your product, and they take you seriously, they see the quality of your product if it's a good fit for their store, and I've had a couple of them approach me, which is always flattering,
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Did you ever do any of that, like the distribution with your comic, Scott? like through Diamond or anything, or just
No,
going to
never.
the stores yourself?
Never through Diamond. I've never, it just seemed like just from what I've heard about it, it just didn't seem like it's great for like independent guys, small, press like me. I don't really have mine in. I mean, I know a lot of the local comic book stores, and I know I can get the books in there if I just talk to the owners. But again, it's like, I don't make a lot from that because they got to take like whatever 50% or whatever. But still, I'm going to put it up online for free, so I might as well put it in the stores too, even if I don't make a lot. If it gets out there and more people know about it, I mean, that's something. So I just haven't. For me right now, it's mainly just getting. My ultimate goal is to get a trade done. So these individual issues are just kind of benchmarks for me to have something that I can say I've completed that I can take. Because I usually do like one a year, so when I go to a show, I'd like to have at least one new issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but eventually when I get the whole story, that's when I'm really going to start promoting it and everything. Right now, it's just kind of, it's more for me and just to have something to show people, but I'm not heavily marketing it yet. I'm going to wait until I have that full story, and then I'll really start pushing it, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Peter? Have you ever done like the self-published route, actually through Diamond and into the stores and all that kind of stuff, or have you even done a self-published book?
Not myself, no. But there's plenty of people I work for that have done different routes where, they self-publish and then they go through Diamond, or just simply printing books up and selling them at conventions. A lot of people do. To go through Diamond, it's like you reach a bigger audience, but you already have to have an audience behind you, really, for it to work.
Yeah.
That
seems to be like the thing I'm seeing lately is more people not going through Diamond and just like selling them at cons or off their website, I guess, or something. I had a friend he self-published back, like 90s, and he did 3 books. This guy Sean Tiffany, and ended up quitting after 3. But gave it like a real legitimate try to make it work, and it was really tough to get people like the stores to buy the books, especially after issue 1. Like there was a huge drop off like on issue 2 and 3, and I think it's just because of the they might take a chance on a number 1, but they're not going to bother with a number 2 or 3, and I don't know. And then I had another friend who did it, and he pretty much just put 1 issue out and swear to God he never self-published anything after that. He lost like $5,000 doing it or something, Which it's a different landscape now. Back then there wasn't any print on demand or anything like that. That was the days when you went to an offset printer. So, hey, Jeremy, can you hear us? I notice he just popped up.
Jeremy's here. Yeah. There's another. Okay, so the Jay Ferguson guy. I think his name is John. He goes by Airheads Custom.
Oh, okay. I know who he is. Yeah, he buys some stuff off of me sometimes.
Yeah.
The airbrush guy.
Or if he's going to try. But I sent him an invite.
Okay.
He always comments on the Artcasters videos and stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention there's a new printer called Print Ninja. I don't know if they're any good, but I'm seeing their name all over the place now.
Yeah, somebody recommended that last one of the other Artcasts to me, and I bookmarked it, so I'm going to definitely check them out.
Maybe that's why I keep
that.
Yeah.
He's the guy who contacted me during my Kickstarter campaign.
Ah.
Oh, this guy, like the printer, actually contacted you through the Kickstarter?
Yeah.
I noticed that now.
Yeah,
Or go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. He's the one he's got his offices there in the States, and what he will do is he'll organize all the printing, but his printer is offshore in Asia somewhere, and his rates are really good. but I think he's actually got a lot of selection in terms of what kind of covers you can use, what weight of paper you want, all that sort of stuff. It's almost like a website where you can pick and choose like a smorgasbord and build your product before you order it. But I think he's one of those guys where he's worth talking to and asking about, oh, can I get a proof done or something like that. That would be my one quibble, because the thing with mass offset printing, which is always the problem, we can get starry-eyed about how cheap it is, but because it's mass-produced in a very particular way, there's going to be a percentage of loss.
Yeah.
And you still have to pay for that loss. And so if you've got 500 books, let's say for argument's sake 5% of that is just ruined. You receive the crate and they're just totaled because of the weight of the rest of the books or something like that. That's stock you can't sell. So you have to sort of eat that. That's the danger of large print runs at a very cheap price.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I know that would.
I wouldn't want to take that chance.
They don't. Yeah, I guess they don't guarantee that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Whereas smaller print runs.
That would be kind of, nice though in a way if you did have some kind of middleman, because that's what's always kind of made me shy away. So I've thought about trying to do an art book or something like that. So I know you can get them so cheap over there, but it's just scary, and you don't know who to talk to, and you don't know who the heck to get, and I don't know. When you look at some of the websites, that they just almost look like, is anybody even gonna, you know what I mean? It's a lot more intimidating than just uploading your stuff to Kablam,
Jeremy, hey, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, Jeremy.
Snuck in.
You're a little low.
Oh, you know what? Hang on, I gotta plug in my good mic. You guys keep talking. I don't want to interrupt the flow. I'll plug in my good mic.
All right. Okay.
And then let's just grill Jeremy for a while, because my throat's sort of getting sore.
Okay. No.
You're the new guy. We already know all of us, so we had to focus on you.
Yeah.
Peter, what are you up to this week?
But what, coming up or behind me?
I don't know. Either one. Has anything happened in front of you or behind you?
Funny. Well, my littlest cat was sick, and what was it? He was, he's like bouncing around normally and full of energy, and for a couple of days, all he was doing was sleeping. So I knew something was up. So we took him to the vet yesterday, and the vet says, yeah, he's got a fever, and gave him some medicine. And now he's back to attacking the other cats and happy. So that's all. Yeah.
What made him sick?
Yeah, so that's well, the vet said he might just be, not have protection against viruses and stuff. So it's a wait and see kind of thing. He may just keep getting a fever again because he doesn't have any protection. And if that's the issue, then it's there's nothing we can do probably without it costing way too much money.
Yeah.
So we got some medicine. We're going to keep giving him for a week or two, and just hope that he builds up an immune system, I guess.
Yeah, he probably will. He's like the younger cat, right? So.
Yeah, we have one cat that goes outside. Is an indoor-outdoor cat. We're keeping her indoors now because we don't want her picking up anything new to give to the other cat. So keeping them all and so we'll take them out every once in a while, but under supervision.
Yeah.
So animals are just like kids without the benefits.
Sure sounds like it now.
Not the diaper bill. No.
Without the
But what's Jeremy working on?
Adding some gray tones to the latest page in my comic.
Cool.
Is that inverted or is that the way it's drawn?
You know what? I think that it's flipping it because I've got this weird thing. Well, actually, you know what? Hang on. Let me go all the way out. On my screen, I'm looking at it, and it appears to be the correct way, but sometimes in Google, with Google Hangouts, it'll like flip your screen, so I'm not sure how you guys are seeing it compared to how I'm seeing it.
I think
I was looking at the top of it and didn't show the bottom panel. It looked like a lot more black than you normally use, but I guess that's the style of the page.
Well, they're inside a cave.
That's good. Yeah. Okay.
So there's context for the. What's odd is that I'm doing some experimental stuff, and we'll see how it works out in the final pages. Because it's funny, the last Artcast last video that I had posted was about the fact that I haven't been using gray tones this whole series, and it's because I was challenging myself to work with just the black and white ink. Like I know how much power color and tone adds to a piece, but I was kind of like intentionally handicapping myself to see what I could do. But in this page, I've got like multiple flashbacks where like every other spread is a flashback. So you read, page 2 and 3 will be in the past, then you turn, and then 4 and 5 are in the present. Then you turn 6 and 7 are flashback, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. So I needed the tones to kind of like. I ended up dropping the opacity on them so that they look a little bit more, a little bit grayed out for the flashbacks. It's just like, with all the stuff I was trying to do storytelling-wise in this issue, I was like, all right, it's cool to be ambitious, but if I'm going to try this, I got to at least try to make it readable. So
yeah.
Now that the thing is okay, now that I've kind of done that, it means obviously I'm going to have to, going forward, use gray tones in the rest of it. It also means I probably have to go back and do gray tones for the first 3 issues. But then there's also, well, what about this whole challenge I was giving myself about trying to create those intentional restrictions? Well, at this point the experiment's over, but what does that mean going forward? Am I still going to try it again on another book? Or is it like I try this, and because I do feel like restricting myself to just the brush and the ink, I did accomplish things in the first couple of issues that I don't think I would have been able to do otherwise. So it did push me. So it didn't push me to the point where I can continue to do it and get the effect I want. But it's more like I did this experiment. It had moderate success, but the experiment has to end, but I'm going to try it again in the future.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes.
Well, that's cool, though. I mean, that's good that you can keep going with it and not, I don't know. That's the thing when you're experimenting, like when you're doing a book, you don't want to change the style too much, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's cool. Just keep going with it.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this kind of when I started the whole series, because I knew when I did the first page of the new series that this whole book was about me trying to really grow, like to make some visual leaps in terms of my abilities, and I know that it's going to look different in the end as it would from the beginning, particularly in just the length of time it's taking me to finish the series.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I realized, am I making this for other people, or am I making this for me? Because I could try to keep the artwork as consistent as possible, and I think that that's actually something people should try to do. But do I want to try and keep it looking consistent as possible at the expense of my artistic growth? And so it's almost like I'm willing to take the hit and accept that the work is going to be a little bit uneven if it means that at the end I'm at a much better place creatively. Like maybe the book after this will be stronger and more consistent. And I felt like it was worth me chasing that ideal of improving over chasing that ideal of having a consistent body of work in this particular comic series.
How long's the comic strip?
It's 8 issues long, 24 pages in each issue, and I'm just wrapping up the 4th issue, so I'm at the halfway point right now.
I generally am a fan of the more independent stuff because sometimes you do see that progression. I think it was the first time I saw it was actually in V for Vendetta, and that wasn't an independent title at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Alan Moore's forward pointed to the fact that he kept the original artwork in there. He could have gone back and redone it with a more consistent style, but he sort of wanted to give people the impression of where it had come from and where it had reached eventually, because the writing also got better, and it was just really interesting to see. You actually see the fingerprints of the artist, as it were, in the art, rather than seeing, okay, well, they've gotten to this level and they're going to sort of draw the Jim Lee way or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean, and V for Vendetta, honestly, of all of Alan Moore's work, and I haven't read everything, but V for Vendetta is actually probably my favorite book. And I mean, the idea of both. I don't think at the last time I read it, I was really aware enough to really see the artistic changes in it. But I think it's worth me going back and rereading it to look at how the art and writing changed over the course of it, because it felt very naturalistic to me the few times I have reread it, but it was sort of like in high school and in my early 20s. I haven't really looked at it with a critical eye in my recent years. So, but I'm glad you pointed that out.
Jeremy, it's curious the way you said that. Do you find that you have to read a book or read a comic in order to really judge the artwork?
The way to answer the best answer for that is that I believe that it is possible to judge it without actually reading it. I personally cannot, but also I tend to. Some people can read a book and they're making critical analysis on their first read. I tend to read a book purely as a fan first. I have a really hard time reading something and just analyzing it. I really have to read it and take not just the art and the story, but the emotion it leaves me with and what it makes me think about when I'm done. Like, for me, all of that is the experience of the initial read. And once I've completed reading it purely as a reader, then I come back at a second read to look at pacing, draftsmanship, storytelling, dialogue, all of the actual nuts and bolts in terms of what, because it might be a book that I'd read and I'll enjoy it, but I won't necessarily think to myself, oh, this is something I can sit back and analyze. But there are certain books, even if it's something I want to, like a Will Eisner graphic novel. I recently went on a run at my used bookstore. I found they had most of Will Eisner's library in some shape or form at like half price or less. So I have like a ton of Eisner books to read through, and those are ones that I want to read through all of them to analyze. But I'm still, first and foremost, I analyze stuff as a reader. I could take it as a reader first, and then come back and re-examine it to learn second.
Yeah, if I'm actually like thinking about that like plot and all that kind of stuff on a first read, and to me it's just like the book couldn't get me, hold me enough to like my mind to go there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. There's something. It's like they say, if you're watching the backgrounds in a movie, they're doing something wrong.
Totally.
That's just how. Yeah.
It's also who's going to be doing the analyzing. You'll often find that actual consumers or fans, they're like you or me, will pick it up and we'll read it for the story, and we won't actually analyze it on first read. We're actually asking ourselves, okay, what's this story about? Where is it taking me? All that sort of stuff. Unless something is really glaring and stands out, it is just so in your face wrong. We're going to be very forgiving. However, on the other hand, if the purpose is to have it as a portfolio piece to, I don't know, I mean, Peter, you could probably talk to this more. Put it in front of someone at Marvel or DC. I generally get the impression that they do look for consistency. I guess it's sort of what's the aim of the piece, really.
You mean like editorially
Yeah.
at Marvel and DC?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
Okay.
got the impression that a lot of we're starting to see a lot of people from IDW show up down here, and they're kind of doing portfolio reviews, and the comments that you get more often than not is, we want to see a consistency in your style. I guess for a commercial release, that's sort of important because, you know, someone else's IP has to be drawn in a particular way, I guess, or whatever, or has to be recognizable throughout the issue. But my impression is that more independent stuff, I guess, is what used to be called underground, but the readers are more forgiving because they're there for the story and they're there for the interaction with the artist. They sort of want to see what it's about rather than put on their editorial hat, as it were, or analyze it, as you said.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's if you're going to work for Marvel, DC, or even any of the top independent publishers, they do look for consistency. It doesn't mean they won't push you and stretch you in different directions, but just on a hiring kind of basis, they want to know that you can pull off, you know, the basic needs. And you know, it's like Bill Sienkiewicz is a good example. You know, initially he was more of a Neil Adams artist, you know, like mimic, early in his career, and there was a great consistency to his work. But after working for, you know, Marvel, DC, for a while, you know, they allowed him to stretch and really, like, every page was a different style, different medium, different, you know, just, you know, until his work got totally insane. You know, and they're like, you know, that's awesome, we'll print it.
Yeah.
But just, you know, just strictly into a publisher and wanting to get hired, yeah, you have to show consistency. You have to show, you know, especially like if it's a publisher that hires, like you said, like an IP. They want to know if it's like, you know, somebody doing an Alien comic that you can draw Ripley 100 times. And make it look like the actress and so on.
X-Files is a great example of that. They've had a lot of great X-Files comics. They do a good job of getting artists that can do likenesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of those weird type artists, I mean, like, I'm thinking like Sam Keith or Simon Bisley, I almost think those guys get in almost by accident, and then they get so popular they can't get rid of them, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe that's a cynical way of looking at it, but...
That's what I'm counting on.
Well,
awesome.
I'm pretty sure both Sam Keith and Simon Bisley credentials going in, and then
well, Bisley was popular from Slain and stuff, but I mean, he never had like a Marvel style, you know what I mean, ever. So, you know, I mean, I think they just brought him because of his popularity.
Slain seemed like it had a little bit of the Frazetta, and not just because the obvious, because it's fantasy, but I mean actually in his painting technique. But I've only seen a little bit of the early Slain stuff.
Oh yeah, I think he's massively influenced by Frazetta, like, you know, Richard Corbin. Who else? And I think since Caggegi, actually, I heard him talking about Sienkiewicz one time. So. All that stuff.
Keith, he was hired by like Marvel UK.
What?
Probably. He was hired by Marvel UK probably first.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think he maybe Lobo might have been his first book or something, like American book. Or maybe that that Batman. Yeah, maybe you're right, because I think actually this first one was that Batman versus Judge Dredd thing he did. You know, and that had Judge Dredd in it, which is a UK thing. So.
Did Keith do any art for Sandman? I remember seeing his name all over it.
That was his first Marvel break, I think. Was early Sandman with Neil Gaiman. Before Neil Gaiman.
Sandman with DC, because that was
that's DC.
Yeah, because it had Constantine in it. Yeah, because like I struggled to see Keith's work in that because I got introduced to Keith through the Max.
Oh yeah, that was a lot later though.
Yeah, and that was all mixed media and lots of what was his thing? Kind of like the telephone cord springy spiral things that he'd throw everywhere. Like if someone's clothes ripped, all the threads would just spring out in these telephone cords, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that Sandman stuff he did was actually, you know, I mean, it doesn't look a lot like Sam's work. I remember. It looks more like he was trying to be inside the DC, I guess, universe or whatever, more calmed down. But then, like, later he did, like, that Wolverine miniseries and stuff like that, and then he really got kind of crazy with his stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, you know, once you've established that you have a big audience, then they'll let you do whatever you want.
Then they can't stop you, yeah.
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 Then you get hired to do that thing, you know, that style. I think I was showing some students the other day a video of just Joe Madeira doodling his death character from, what's that game he did, Darksiders. And, you know, here he is, a Marvel artist who's been in the industry, I don't know, what, 15, 20 years? Something like that. And he's just going, oh, look, this drawing's terrible. I really don't like it. And we're thinking, this is better than anything we could even hope to ever produce, mate. You know. And he's always talking about how, you know, he looks back on some of the X-Men stuff he did and how he was just sort of learning there and aping other people. I went back. I've got some of his back issues of X-Men stuff that he worked on, and he was still recognizable back then. You know.
Which artist are you talking about?
Joe Madeira.
Oh, Madeira, yeah, okay.
We all got different way of saying his name, okay?
I like his early X-Men work. It's a little stylized, it's a little anime-ish, but it was fun. It was, you know, good work.
Yeah, I think that's what struck me about him. He had a fun style. The things he could do with anatomy that was just... You know, no human is built like what Joe Madeira draws them like. You know, no one's got shoulders that wide or hands more massive than their chest. It's just impossible, but he makes it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unlike, like, I don't know, Todd McFarlane. Like, Todd McFarlane wrote in, you know, excess, like, just, like, breaks joints and whatnot. And it looks fun, but you know it's wrong. Joe Madeira has I don't know, it's a prettiness to the quality of his work that, you know, it looks like, well,
yeah, I think.
I want to mention something. Jay Ferguson, who is the Airheads guy, he tried to get in, but he had his his laptop crashing. So he said to say hi to everyone, and maybe in the future he can get in on a cast.
That's cool.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, you gotta like try to get in on like 3 of these before you can actually make it. It's like a train leaving.
Well, I can understand like a laptop like overheating because, you know, these hangouts take a lot of your power. So
Yeah.
I'm on a laptop.
Yeah.
If anything happens, then you'll know why.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot I used to have that problem with my laptop. It'd always be getting warm. I'd always be like propping it up some way to get air underneath it and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Todd McFarlane, even though like his stuff, like I agree, like the anatomy's weird and stuff, and Bisley too, it's like wrong kind of drawing, but it's still cool, That's a lot of it, just making it look like it works. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean it all comes out. I mean, it's all style. It's all even the most accurate anatomy artist out there, there's probably flaws in it somewhere.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. Kirby too, though. I mean, Kirby's anatomy isn't exactly like, correct anatomy, but it looks awesome.
But
and it's correct in the sense it works, right? But it's not like a photograph for sure, or for Zeta or anybody. A lot of people.
Who was it who originally said that style is everything that you do wrong?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought my buddy Jason said
that.
That
was
other
me.
people say looking copy from somebody.
Right. I don't know, but it's a good quote.
And I kind of agree with it.
Oh,
attributed to you.
Right.
Jeremy, I wanted to ask. We were talking about printing comics and whatnot. How do you print yours?
I use a place. Well, there's two printers that I've used recently, and they're both print on demand. One is called Greco Print, and I've been using them lately. The other one is RA Comics Direct. I've been pretty happy with the service of both of them, and for me, it's just one of those things where somebody else recommended. I've been using RA Comics Direct for a while, for like a year or two. Somebody recommended Greco Print. I'm always like, well, with print on demand, you can try a couple of printers out and see how you feel about them. Since I switched over to Greco, I've been pretty happy with them too. So I mean, I could very easily recommend either one of those services. My problem mainly is again, it's the price point. The fact that I'm getting stuff printed in pops of like 50 units, 100 units. Yeah, it means I don't have my living room filled up with boxes of books, but I'm obviously paying far more per book than somebody doing offset printing.
Yeah. So both those places are print on demand then?
Yes, they are. In fact, I will let me find their websites and I'll pop the links in the chat. When I did my graphic novel a few years back, that I got printed offset. But actually, it's interesting because some printers will do a digital print run, but they'll do it at like 1,000 copies and they'll give you a rate that's kind of like an offset printer rate.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Quebecor, who is no longer Quebecor. They became Transcontinental. Or actually, I think it's Transcontinental. Yeah, they were eventually either purchased or they changed their name. But they're a Canadian printing company, and they printed. I think they do some Marvel and DC books. And when they were Quebecor, I know they did a lot of Marvel and DC stuff. So I thought, let me just go with them at least for getting a quote.
Yeah.
Like I went to them, I went to Brenner, I went to a couple other printers, and Quebecor, they gave me the best price at the time. And what's interesting is that even though they're a Canadian company, and that's the reason why you would normally expect the lower print rate, the actual warehouse where I think they were printing was somewhere in the United States. So I didn't have to pay it was still a lot of money to pay for the shipping, but it wasn't paying for getting stuff shipped, internationally. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the Quebecor, I think that's the one who used to print Cerebus, but that's like a full-on offset printer. Were you getting like a big run at that point, or what?
That's the biggest print run I've ever done for anything. I got 1,000 copies done, which, for most comics it's not a whole lot, but also the fact that it was 1,000 graphic novels as opposed to 1,000 something. So, and believe me, I'm still not done with that print run, and that was I want to say 2009. Actually, you know what's funny is I'm at an interesting point now because I have actually I'm going to probably be out. If I do 2 more conventions and my sales remain about what they've been, I will probably have to start ordering more books. And now I'm at the point where I would have to decide, do I want to go offset all over again and fill up an entire closet and part of a room with books? Or do I want to just do print on demand from now on until there's a point where it seems worthwhile? Like, I could see myself going and putting out another graphic novel every few years, and then once I get like 4 or 5 graphic novels under my belt, then doing something where I do offset print runs and get them printed, like release them over the course of a year, like as a quarterly thing, do an all new launch, and maybe that might even be a point where I would look for a publisher specifically for distributing the books, even though they've been previously released, because I did get the first graphic novel I did. I got it into Diamond, and the orders were pretty low, but I still got them into some shops. So that was just a few more copies that I didn't have to push a convention. So that was good.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. That's like a good question. I thought that myself. I don't know. Are you familiar with that guy, Jason Brubaker, the Making Comics guy? Is that Comics Dithra? I don't know.
know him by name. I don't think I've read any of his stuff.
Well, I don't know. You know, he ran a Kickstarter for a couple of his books.
Oh wait, was he the guy who did Remind?
Remind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I have read some of his stuff. Yeah.
And hugely successful campaigns, and and that was kind of his thing, was to print big offset print runs of these books, and in China or wherever, and obviously run Kickstarters, which would sell a lot of them, and that worked for him. But I've heard people on the other side of it where they're like, they can't sell that many books, or saying like the other way, like print on demand is better when you're small because you don't have the investment that you might lose at some point if you can't move those books later on. But I don't know.
Well, the way I look at it is, if you start with print on demand going small, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, you get slammed with a bunch of orders, people are pretty understanding if you say, all right, I'm going to fulfill the orders with what I have now, and I'm going to do an offset print run. Because, you do have to kind of scramble a bit, but if you've already got your files print ready because you've sent them to a print on demand place, you could probably call a printer, get some quotes within 2 weeks, and then have them printing the book, and then they'll probably be able to get it to you within a month to 6 weeks. Yeah. And I think if you tell people, all right, I've sold out of the 50 or 100 I have now, but I've got 1,000 more coming, and you send out an email and let everybody know their books are coming, as long as you're not selling it to retailers where you're not sticking them when they're expecting a release date, people are pretty understanding.
I agree. People that actually are buying from your website, they're pretty much on your side already. So
yeah, they're buying it because they want to support you. If they're coming from a Patreon or Kickstarter, they're already there because they want to support you. Ideally, if you're doing a Patreon or Kickstarter, that you kind of can gauge what your audience is already. Because if you've got 200 supporters or 400 followers, what have you, then you kind of know that's probably going to be around the number that you're going to need, plus a little extra for any overflow people that order anyway. So you can gauge right there. And to be honest, that's probably the worst scenario, because when you know that when you're doing 100 books or 200, that's where you're like, all right, yeah, I better do print on demand so I can get stuck with a bunch. And if you're doing 1,000 or more, or if you're even 700, 800, that's getting in the range where you might as well go ahead and do offset. When you're dead in the middle, you're like, okay,
right,
break the bank doing print on demand, or you spend the money. At that point, you might as well spend the money to do an offset, but then you really are going to be stuck with a bunch of books that you will sell over time. So it's like you look at it like it's an investment. You're going to amortize it. When I say it will sell over time, I'm saying hopefully it's going to sell over time, but I'm looking at we're all in this for the long haul, and it's not like if you don't sell it within 6 months, you're folding up shop. It took me, 5 years to sell through my first graphic novel, and I'm still doing work, even though,
Well, even then, it's like it almost makes sense that you did it. If you actually got to the end of that run and you sold all those books, even if it took you 5 years, it seems like a good business plan for the next 5 years. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of like doing prints or something. That's the way I look at it a lot of times. If I can get to the end of a print run, I don't care how long it took.
Yeah, every time you sell out of something, it's like,
yeah.
Some people get mad, so like, if I only had a little bit more, I could get that much more money. But selling out is an accomplishment. Selling out of anything you made means enough people supported it. More people supported it than you thought were going to support it. That's always a word.
Yeah, totally. Did you run? You haven't ran any kind of Kickstarter or anything like that for your book? Did you do any of these print runs?
I haven't done any Kickstarter campaigns, and here's the thing. I look at people that are being really successful with it, and all the people I know are really upfront about how much work the actual doing of the campaign is.
Yeah.
That if you're going to run a successful campaign, you have to be so on the ball in terms of your marketing, being in contact with people, planning all of the different updates to let people know how the campaign is going, and all the different rewards, that it's almost like a whole nother full-time job. And it makes sense financially for me being an indie creator to do a Kickstarter, but it takes me so long to finish a book and to finish art right now around the day job schedule that it just means I would just stop making anything.
Right.
And while it makes financial sense, I'm not ready to sacrifice that amount of time. Now, I think it works well if you're somebody who isn't necessarily doing it all alone. If you've got an assistant, or if you're a small press team and you're like, maybe you're a writer but you're working with an editor and you're publishing stuff together, or you're a writer, or if you've got like a full creative team of a penciler, inkler, or colorist, writer, and you're all working together, that's something where you're like, all right, we're all going to pitch in on the marketing side of the Kickstarter too. That's something where I see it, doable. But where I am right now, for me personally, I just don't have the bandwidth to pull it off. It's not like I'm saying, I'm not poo-pooing Kickstarter by any stretch of the imagination. I can't pull it off.
Yeah. Just on the side note, I saw something kind of funny or heard it in a podcast this last week. You guys all remember that Order of the Stick comic that did like $100 or $1 million bucks on Kickstarter?
Yeah.
I guess like they have like on their website or something, they still haven't actually fulfilled all the stuff out of that Kickstarter, and they have some kind of like big graph or something where they're like have different phases of the stuff still going out. Or that's fucking crazy. That's like 3 years ago or something now. Haven't fulfilled that.
That's kind of messed up.
I know.
I will admit, I think I'm down to 3 rewards that I haven't fulfilled.
Still got a couple. How long ago was your Kickstarter?
Yeah. Me?
Yeah.
Me.
No, how long ago was yours, Paul?
Yeah, hi. I went well. I got 10% over. I hear what Jeremy's saying. It's Jeremy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I hear what Jeremy's saying. Yeah, it is sort of like a full-time job. It was the first Kickstarter I'd ever done, so it was about 3-4 months preparation, more than anything else. I was reaching the end of issue 5. I wanted to do the trade, so I practically had all the art ready to go, and I needed the money to combine the trade and get it printed. I had picked a number that I could afford to print, and I think the majority of the work is in the setup. The actual month is just like watching those dominoes fall and just keeping track of them. What I did was I scheduled being on people's podcasts and being on web shows and trying to talk to other outlets throughout that month just to maintain visibility. That is hard work, but the hardest work of all is definitely the setup. I had no idea what I was going to get. I had originally wanted to go for 6,000, but I talked to some people, and I kind of got the impression that I may not have had the audience to pull that off, so I dropped it down to 4. If I dropped it any lower, it would have reached the territory of, hang on a minute, I could probably self-fund this, so there's really no point. And so for me, it was that sort of sweet spot between, you know, money that I was just a little out of reach personally, but money that would definitely be needed to do a sizable print run. I ended up going for 250 books. Of the 108 backers, about 70 of those went for a book, and so I had plenty of stock to see me. It was a really great marketing exercise that I learned a lot from, and now that I think I can improve upon for next year.
Do you think that, like, I mean, a couple things. When you did your rewards, were they all books and prints and stuff like that? Was there any original art reward type things in there where you had to, like, do more work after the Kickstarter? Because I've heard lots of people get in trouble doing it that way.
Yeah, I'd heard about that before. So what I decided to do was think, okay, what rewards can I make that is not going to take a hell of a lot of time? I did digital rewards, like I did a how to make comics tutorial, which was one of the lower reward tiers for people who want to just sort of spend $15 and not actually get anything print. There would be no overhead for me. You know, they would download all the content, including a tutorial. They would get some working files to use and analyze. But that was all done before the Kickstarter campaign ran, actually. The stuff that I had to do afterwards, and this is what's holding me back on these 3 rewards, is that I offered commissions, and they were at different tiers. So a lower tier, you'd get a book and all the digital stuff, of course. You'd get an art book and all that sort of thing. And then they would be able to get a commission of their choice. A lower price bracket would give them a pencil and ink. A higher price bracket would be a full digital print.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know.
I did have a. Sorry, I did have a third one, which was a sculpted 3D model, and I'm still working on those too. That was the one that was the hardest.
Yeah. How long did it take? I mean, how long? I don't even know if you can answer the question, but how long did it take you to kind of fulfill, like, all the books and, like, with the shipping and all that kind of stuff? You know, because I mean, I'm a guy who, like, ships all the time. I know how, like, overwhelming just, like, a little bit of shipping dripping in all the time. I mean, I'd hate to wake up one day and go, okay, I got to ship 100 packages today. You know, that's like a month's worth of work. You know.
Yeah, it is. It is. You've got to be prepared for that. After the Kickstarter campaign was over, I think it's 2 weeks before you actually get the funds deposited in your account. I'm not sure if it's sooner if you're US-based. I'm pretty sure across the board it's 2 weeks. They only opened up Kickstarter in Australia and New Zealand last November, so I took advantage of that.
Oh, really?
I knew it was coming, so that was part of the prep work. I did it in chunks, and so, like, there were people who only had the book, for instance, and then there were people who had the book and a print, and then book, print, commission, then 2 books and another commission, whatever. So I split these up into chunks. The printer, because I mentioned it earlier in this this video, he was already on the ball. I'd already put my order through and I already told him where the money was coming from. So the printing was pretty much done before I ended up getting the funds. And so he was kind of patient with me, and I said, look, the funds are just around the corner. They're here any day now. As soon as they come, I'll send you the money. And it's kind of good when you have a personal relationship with them rather than, you know, they're just a bureaucratic admin assistant or something. And so he was cool with that. It was only a few days away, so it wasn't like I was he was hanging on for a month or something.
Right.
So the print run got done pretty much like that. I went in, I picked up, I don't know, 6 boxes of books, and then immediately I started packing them into their little, you know, hard envelopes, and then turning up to my local post office, which lucky for me is just down the road, but with like stacks of 10 or 20, and just like going, boom, okay, this is going like everywhere, okay? So,
Yeah.
and then just, yeah, what really hurts is sort of paying out $300-400 at a time at the post office, you know, because the print costs are so high.
I've heard that factoring in the shipping or not factoring the shipping, has sunk many a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, particularly if you've got international backers. That's like a lot of people, end up asking for like a whole extra, like sometimes needing to kick in an extra $1,000 or more above and beyond what their initial Kickstarter goal was.
Yeah,
I can speak to that. There's a kind of a double-edged sword, especially for if you're international. If you're in the US, good news for you guys. You can charge shipping on top of your Kickstarter tier and still retain the bulk of your audience because they're going to be US based, and so you can factor in, $3-4 for I don't know what the weight of a book is over there into the tier, and people will be prepared to pay that. And then you can put like $26 on top of that $30 tier for an international because they're going to be a small percentage. For me, I really wanted a large percentage to come from the US, so I kind of either had to factor it in to the price, which was very difficult, or eat that. And turned out that I kind of miscalculated on the postage, and I got stung to the tune of something like $700 on top of my Kickstarter campaign goal that I had to fork out just for shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's international shipping, though.
Yeah. Look, next time I have to sort of really think about that. Also, shipping from Australia is awful. It stings us. But the thing is that it has to look attractive to a US buyer. Okay, the bulk of my audience is not going to be here, unfortunately. It's going to be over there. And so if I'm charging you guys $30 shipping on top of a $30 Kickstarter reward, you're already looking at 10 campaigns. Why are you going to buy from this Aussie, buy from a guy, across the country? It makes no sense. So for me, I really have to address that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you find that, did you bring, how much of your audience, and I'm sure you can't give me a number, but I mean, was your audience that you brought with you, and how much of it do you think kind of came from Kickstarter?
Oh, right off the bat I can answer, you have to have the audience there if you want to run a successful campaign. I think I did get quite a large chunk that were new to the book, that had seen it on Facebook or something. Kickstarter's got some fantastic analytics. Of the 108 backers, 50 people came from Facebook, and a lot of those were people I didn't really know. I expected that existing fans would at least share it, and they did. So they brought me audience. But without them, I would not have gotten the backers. So, yeah, an audience is important, however way you decide to cut it, really.
So were you still doing the webcomic up to the point where you ran a Kickstarter? I mean, where was that audience? How were you keeping an audience without having a webcomic or a daily something that kept them there?
I had daily updates. Issue 5 was updating on the webcomic as the Kickstarter campaign was running, and then beyond the Kickstarter campaign, actually. So I had visibility there. But like I said before, I kept visibility up by attending podcasts. I think I was on Peter's show at one time. I was on Tom Racine's Tall Tale Radio. I was on some
maybe
local
that's where I heard you.
well.
I used to listen to Tom all the time. Yeah. So you went on all the podcasts. What else were you doing? How else did you promote this thing?
Well, I tried basically anything and everything. I think the one thing that fell through was my wife is in PR, but as soon as I sort of quibbled on the details, she just threw her hands up in frustration. Just went, "No, screw you! You're the worst client ever," or something. So I might have to play nice if I want a press release. Because she's actually in contact with a lot of local papers, and so it would have been a huge benefit to actually get it into some newspapers or onto some, some far-ranging blogs. But I tried everything. I got onto a blog that promotes the software that I was using, which is Blender. It's a 3D software package. Unfortunately, only about 4 people came from there. Still, Facebook was far and away the most successful thing that got me backers. But comic book podcasts were the main way I was trying. I tried Twitter, I tried Facebook, I tried Google Plus. But most importantly, I told everyone to share it. I just said, look, you don't have to give me a single cent. Just share this on Facebook, see if anyone is interested. And a lot of people did, which was great.
Okay. That makes sense. Did you do any paid advertising on Facebook?
Actually, I didn't. No. I'm not sure. But I was sort of keeping checks and balances, and I thought, if I do some paid advertising, that's going to be, what, $50, $100, and then I've got to sort of factor that into, what I'm actually going to get back. And am I actually going to get the print run done if I'm eating into my my goal? So I decided not to go the paid route because, look, $4,000 isn't a big amount in Kickstarter terms, especially when you got a potato salad raising like $56,000. Okay.
Some good potato salad.
That's just the noise we've got to work with.
Right.
So if I think next year I could possibly gamble on a larger amount. I would probably play it a little bit more conservative and still go for the $4,000 goal. Again, who knows? I could probably raise 50% over that or 100% over that because I would have grown a bigger audience. But if I take the gamble and go for, say, 6, I may not reach that. And as you know, Kickstarter is one of those platforms that you have to reach the goal to get the money. And I would dearly love to get another print run for book 2.
Yeah. You don't want to go out and fail.
And
it's just like everybody watches you do that.
Like anything, if you know you can hit 5,362, you go under that because you want to make it look good. It's like, oh, we passed our goal,
It is a very public thing to go out there and either succeed or fail. And it does definitely change the mind, I think, of your fans. I really do think that. People say you got nothing to lose. But you have somewhat of a reputation and a crowd that's following you and think that you know what you're doing, and you go out there and you fuck something up like that. I think it hurts you. It hurts your business. I don't know.
It can do, yeah. Failure for that can do, but I think people are a little bit more savvy as well. I mean, you'll see that a project reached 300% of its goal, then you go and take a look at the project, and if their goal was $100,
right?
What did they really make? What did they actually get out there? But if their goal was $10,000 and they made 30, then you think, hey, that's pretty good. That's got an audience, and then you start thinking, that's sort of the project that we should be working on if we want to raise that kind of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I've seen 1 or 2 fail, and then the people that did the Kickstarter were in communication with the audience that did pledge, and said, hey, we're still going to go along with our project. It will take us longer, but they kept in contact, and eventually they did print the book up. And it was like, well, the Kickstarter may have failed, but the project didn't. And
I don't think it's like a deal breaker.
Contact.
Yeah. I don't think it's a deal breaker to go out there and fail. That's for sure. I've seen it work too. So, and I've also seen people rerun it, like go just start it back up and run it for less and make their goal, which is weird too. I don't know.
I also noticed what actually sells and what doesn't. I noticed that of the first-time projects, a comic could be successful. A title, that's got a clear synopsis. You can tell people what it's about. That you can sort of bring them on board and say, look, this is my pitch. This is why I want your money. What failed was first-time art books. So no one knows who I am, and I want to put out an art book and I want to raise $30,000. that's going to fail. Because who am I? Unless my artwork is some kind of absolutely mind-blowing stuff, which I've got to be pessimistic. A lot of it isn't. You know the stuff I'm talking about. The art book's going to fail, but a first-time comic by someone who's half decent has a good shot of success. So putting out a product for someone will probably get you an audience and get you the funds better than the art of.
Right. I think that a lot of that is just like that. I don't know what it is, but there is something when you're attached to a comic, when you're attached to a project, it's a lot more definite thing. Like, this is the thing. And I think sometimes when people are like trying to do their sketchbook and stuff, I have a struggle with that too, where it's kind of like, well, what are you doing? You're just kind of like, it's just fun to me, which never really seems to work, where you're like, fun, whatever. Octopus versus, space chicks or something. Bam, that's a thing, I don't know.
An art book is a good value add, though. It's good to get a $10, $20 out of a tier. Just limit it, say 20 prints or 50 prints or something like that, and you'll be surprised who actually goes for it. I was surprised. I did a lot of my concept art on the train to and from work. That was just the only time I had as a young father and all that, working at sometimes 2-3 freelance jobs a week or something. And I decided to collect those into a book, make a little thing called a commute sketch. It cost me like $1 to print because it was just a little 16-pager, small size. Beautiful looking book, which I still had extra prints of, which I've been selling at cons for, and just throw that in with a poster, and you can put the tier up $10. It's a value add.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this is a book I got off of Kickstarter, which is an art book.
Mark
Schultz, whose artwork I love.
Yeah, I saw that Kickstarter running.
Yeah, it's like I had to get this one.
He's a good example of somebody who brings an audience, though.
I forget how it did, but I'm sure it did really well.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a Kickstarter book. I just saw it on Amazon, and I had put it on my wish list because I have a bunch of his various drawing sketchbooks, and a really good friend of mine got that for me as a birthday present.
Oh, that's cool.
I had no awareness of the Kickstarter at all, but I got the book, and it is a beautiful book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you taking off, Paul?
All right, Paul.
Yeah, guys, I gotta go. I gotta go. One.
See you, Paul.
Thanks.
It's been a great talk, and if we're doing this again next week, I might even be around again. So it won't be the new guy. I'll be helping you guys grill whoever the new guy is.
Pleasure meeting you, Paul.
Okay.
So meeting all you guys too.
See ya.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Bye for now, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, I love those art books, though, that Mark Schultz has been putting out. I haven't got to see this new one that Peter's got, but all those drawing books and stuff, it's like, oh, man, so awesome.
Those are ones I just want to drool over.
Yeah, that's some art I drool over, too. That's the kind of art that makes me feel like I can't draw.
That's like the kind of art book that you could put out.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put out an art book eventually. Just getting ready for it at some point. My big deal is, I don't know if I should even talk about this on a podcast that's going out to my fans, but I feel like I'm worried that if I start up a Kickstarter for a month, it's going to kill my sales. Like, they're going to go over to the Kickstarter, give money, and they're going to stop buying stuff, and that's just going to sink me, So.
That's a really interesting... It's an interesting problem to have, because because it does mean you have fans that are giving you money on a regular basis, which puts you a leg up of a lot of indie creators. It's not quite first world problems; it's second world problems, but still, good place to be. I suppose it's the alternative.
It is. I don't know.
Just tell everybody, put half your paycheck to my Kickstarter and the other half to my prints. I'll new artwork.
Yeah. I know that did sound kind of
But
horrible.
it is a challenge because
realistic.
your whole business model is based on making X amount per week, and if you're doing a Kickstarter, that gets them push to a certain extent. So.
Yeah, because I imagine a lot of those people are going to be the people, and then whether you make that money on that Kickstarter or not, just like Paul was saying, you don't get it 2 weeks or whatever it is till after the Kickstarter, so that's a whole month plus 2 weeks. And yeah, a lot of times, like right now, because I'm having a hard time just making like my bills. So you just don't want to take anybody out of that pool of who might buy something that month. But I don't know. A book is definitely something I want to try, and it just makes sense. So it's like that thing I was talking about, in one of my videos. I don't know when, but like the overall idea of your business compared to just like what you're doing on a daily basis to make money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You kind of have the big plan, and then you have like the small plan of like what I'm doing today that's going to make money. And sometimes those two don't jive. The big plans take more money, though. They take time and time to plan, And that to me is like art books and, prints and things that pay over time, going to cons, selling prints. All that stuff makes money, but it's like that stuff you got to plan out and get to the point where you can make money off it. So.
It's almost like if you're going to attempt something like that, you have to like make double a couple of weeks in advance of the Kickstarter starting.
Right.
This way you have a buffer of cash flow.
Which I thought, because Christmas is coming, and like in the past with my sketch cards, I know like that whole Halloween up to Christmas run gets pretty crazy with just commissions and artwork being sold. It seems like you can just sell anything at that point. And I thought that might be the time when the money might come dumping in pretty easy, and then you could really, make twice the amount you need in a month and run one like in the beginning of the next year. I don't know. And then, but like the other thing, well, I don't know if I should just put it all out there, but I was, with print on demand and stuff. A friend of mine ran a Kickstarter, and he ended up doing his book through CreateSpace, which is Amazon's or print on demand thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's print on demand in a way. It's kind of like you didn't really need to run a Kickstarter to make that book. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be dishonest with people either, but I don't know. A Kickstarter is pretty much just making money to make a book to sell. So, but so there's other options to make a book, is what I'm saying.
Well, there's a couple of marketing podcasts I've listened to that are about sort of art, and one of the things that they talk about is trying to take the same creativity that we put into our work. Mm-hmm. And none of us really want to deal with business. We just want to be making stuff. But the idea of trying to take the same creativity that we apply to the pieces we make and look at business almost like this is a creative problem for us to solve, as much as working out a composition problem, or an anatomy problem or anything like that. You could always do something where you could do a soft cover, print on demand, or a CreateSpace version of your book and have it there for people to order, and even make it like a smaller book. Like, let's say that your idea for an art book was going to be something that was like a nice 200-page hardcover. That can be the Kickstarter thing. But you can also say, all right, you're going to do like a 48-page or like a 96-page entry-level version on CreateSpace, see how that goes, see how it's received. And it's one of those things where you can even just, sometimes it's as easy as just asking your audience, well, what do you want? Do you want this smaller version, or do you want the bigger version? Then having the conversation. And it's one thing to ask people things, then see, well, what do they actually come out of pocket with? But at least it's a starting gauge to find out. Well, you know what? Maybe it could be something where the stretch goal is how big the book is. So you set the Kickstarter for a really modest version, and then if it goes over that, you're like, okay, now it's going from a 100-page book to a 200-page book. And then if you get even that much further to the stretch goal where you're making like 10,000 or 20,000 when your goal was something like 5,000. Then you're like, all right, well, now we're going to do a hardcover book. Now we're going to do a hardcover book with tip-ins. And it's sort of like, that's how you could do it. You could also try saying the quality of the book, the production values go up the higher over the goals you get.
No, I think that's a great idea, and I've definitely thought that same thing, with the exception of maybe making like the smaller print-on-demand book, because I tell you, like a long time ago when I was doing sketch cards, it's almost the same kind of thing, and I had that same idea, like let's just do small art books that kind of come out, like bi-yearly or something, and I was doing them through Kablam, and I noticed, like you'd get sales, and I would get sales off those books, but what I really noticed was people really wanted, like when they're buying a book, they want the nice book. You know what I mean? I tried to make them smaller, cheaper, so people would buy them like every 6 months or whatever. And I really noticed like that was everybody's complaint, was like they're not big enough, they're not nice enough. You know what I mean? It was almost like a magazine.
You already know what your particular audience wants.
Kind of. Yeah, like with I get what you're saying about asking, but I do kind of think I have like a little bit of an insight to what they want, just because they buy stuff and they don't buy stuff. So.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is like my thoughts are all well and good, but I'm the one whose nuts are on the chopping block.
Right. No, I like the idea though. I don't know. Kickstarter's scary. I ran a Kickstarter a long time ago for like an animation project, and I failed at it. So I think I'm like gun shy. Get up there and fucking, get my ass handed to me again.
I can't remember whether it was Paul who said it, but just the idea of trying a Kickstarter, it failing, and then retooling and running it again, but differently. Most of the people I've talked to that have ran a successful Kickstarter have done at least one, if not a couple Kickstarters before they had a successful one. So it's almost kind of like trying to put together a gallery exhibition, or just the process of trying to improve your work. I think that maybe the Kickstarter thing is the same thing. There's a learning curve that involves failing, and that failure just seems scarier because of how public it is. But it's still part of the process of figuring out how to do it right.
Yeah, that could be. Maybe I'm not like the only one out there with a failed one.
Yeah, I listened to. Have you any guys listened to that podcast, Funding the Dream on Kickstarter?
I did go and listen to a couple of them after you told me about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I was just to say I have not. That's all. Continue.
Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty good. It's a little game centric as far as board games and stuff, but there's a lot of good information on there. And one of the things they said was, if it looks like you're not going to fund, a couple days before, they say, just cancel it. Don't let it fail, because if you cancel it, it won't show up as that you had a failure of a Kickstarter, and then you can restart it again with a different goal or whatever. But I always thought that was interesting. I didn't know that was the case.
And I've seen guys do it. This one guy I talked to once in a while, Sam Flegel, he's like a gaming artist. He did one and just was like, it's not working, and he canceled the damn thing. And I guess he's going to relaunch it at some point, and it just seems weird to me to do that, but maybe he's got a point, I don't know. Is it really that bad to have a strike against you at some point on there? I'm not sure.
No, I don't know if it's bad, but I mean I guess it looks, if you're going to fund again, it might be helpful if there wasn't, if it didn't show that you tried to run one and you weren't successful. I don't know. According to the podcast, that's kind of what the best thing to do is just to cancel it and restart it.
But then also, like with Kickstarter, what I noticed, like with mine, and I've seen it on tons of them, is like, you get that big jump right off the bat when you go out and tell everybody about it. Then that middle area is like the kind of dead zone, and then right before the end is when people show up out of the woodwork and try to help you to get it up there. So if you cut it off before that last 2 days, you might be cutting it off before the people come to the fund.
Yeah, I guess it would depend how close you are. I mean, if you're
cut it. So eBay snipe it right at the very 4 seconds. Just cut it off.
It's a question of being close or no prayer in hell.
Right. Just as the millionaire is going to hit the pay button. Just disappears off of his screen. Yeah, I don't know. I listened to a few of those ones, that Funding the Dream. That show, though, man, it seems to be like almost one where it's maybe like, it seemed very like almost like a business. Like, this is my Kickstarter show about Kickstarter, and this is how you can make a bunch of money, and here's my sponsor for this week. It's, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you have to take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, there's some really good info in there, and whenever I get to that point where I want to run a Kickstarter, I mean, I'm going to take some of that, you know, stuff that I learned from there. But I mean, like you said, a lot of it is, you know, these are people that are just gung-ho about Kickstarter being their, you know, main source of, you know, income, or not income, but, you know, fundraising and capital and all that stuff. But
which it is. I mean, it's awesome to like
Kickstarter.
Or what'd you say, Jeremy?
I said, are they kickstarting their book about Kickstarter?
No, it's not that bad. I don't think.
They already got their show about Kickstarter. They don't need a book, but it's like it is awesome in a way. And you know, like I kept bringing up that guy, what's his name, the Making Comics guy. And in a lot of ways, it's like that is his business model. You know what I mean? He runs a Kickstarter every year, and he makes like $100 grand, even though he works at DreamWorks or whatever. I mean, I don't quite understand how you make $100,000 on a Kickstarter and have to have a full-time job, but maybe he's spending his money different than I would. But you know, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of people do it that way with comics, and it is awesome to think about that that's the way you could do it, where you don't. You know, you don't have like a selling situation all year long or whatever the heck it is, making your money off ads or something. And you can just have like this one shot, you know, 1 month or whatever, where you can like make or break and make your living for a whole year. It's incredible.
Yeah, I bought the first Remind book from him at a convention, but yeah, I was following him and watching what he was doing and everything. And there's a lot of people out there that do it right, but it's like that you know, it's been mentioned before, is that you've got to have that audience, you know. And I think a lot of us, I mean, that's what we're kind of trying to do with these videos and everything. And you know, I think Jeff, you're probably more out front than most of us, but you know, even you still have a long way to go. I mean, it just takes time, you know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of audience, do you got your webcomic up yet?
Oh no, I'm working on. That's going to be a while. I don't know how soon it'll be, but right now, as I'm talking, I'm just finishing up all the character bios, all this sketching. So just flat coloring, and tomorrow maybe if I've got this freelance project. It's like a rush thing. So if I get it done, I might do Studio Synergy and then try to do some more work on it then. But yeah, I'm actually gonna have to. I'm probably gonna have to call it a day because I gotta wake up and get my kids off to school and all that, and I'm kind of fading. So.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, it'll be a little while before the webcomic goes, but I'm working on it. So.
Well, it seems like a good way to build an audience.
Yeah.
You know, if nothing else. I don't know.
Well, anytime you can give stuff away for free, just getting eyeballs on it, that's I mean, it is one of the best things. Like I've thought about, like, I started doing daily sketches a while back. And they aren't even sketches I do every day. What it is, I save my sketches from a figure drawing class I go to every week, and I post those over the course of the week. But at least it's something I'm putting out online, and I'll just put a little blurb about, whatever I'm thinking about art-wise. It's not as good, I think, as having a webcomic or having some sort of narrative content to really hook people in, but at least it's something. I'm making something every week.
So I know. Is it Eye of the Gods? Was that your first your graphic novel?
Yeah, that's the first one I put out.
Okay, so that you ran as a webcomic. You're not running Morningstar, right?
Yeah, I don't run Morningstar as a webcomic, but I do post the first 12 pages. So like half of each issue I post online, as opposed to most previews usually like first 6 pages or something. And for me, it was just one of those things where I thought, it's sometimes with a lot of books with the pacing they have now, 6 pages isn't even enough. It's like it's a teaser and you can see what it's going to look like, but it's not enough to actually get you hooked in. Whereas I feel like 12 pages is enough where you actually feel like you want to see what happens next. With Eye of the Gods, I tried an experiment, and it didn't work. But my plan was I finished the book, got it printed. Then when it was printed, I started running it online as a webcomic, and at the bottom of each update was a link saying you can buy the book here. So I figured people, if they start getting into it, would eventually get to the point where they'd be like, I can read the rest of this right now. I don't want to wait anymore.
That's what I wanted to do. That's exactly what I want to do. And you said that didn't work for you?
It did not work for me. I think out of the time I was running it as a webcomic, I maybe got... I think it ended up taking me, I'm trying to think of how many months it ran. It probably ran like maybe 2.5 months, and I think I maybe sold 3 or 4 copies through the links I was running online. Since then, I have had more sales online, but almost all of my sales come from face-to-face conventions.
Yeah.
That's just been what's worked for me. I would love to have more sales online, not because I don't enjoy going to conventions, but just because doing more online allows me to stay home more and to draw new work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still haven't gotten to the point where I'm like generating a lot of online sales.
See, I'm wondering, the other thing I was going to do now, if you were saying you could, if you didn't want to wait for each update, that you could order the book, could you also order a digital version or just the print version?
Yeah, you could order a digital version too. I used at the time I launched it, it was well before Comixology existed. Hell, I don't think Longbox was even out yet. But PayPal has a service called Payloads, and they allow you to sell digital downloads. And ever since I finished the first book, everything I have, I'll put them up on Payloads. And it's just one of those things where they just download a PDF or a CBZ file, and they just pay for it the same way, whether they have a credit card or not. Anytime you see someone that's a PayPal button on there, they would just go and order it. So yeah, I got some digital sales through that way also.
Yeah, because I would think, I don't know which is, for like mine would be like just single issues. So if I could sell it for 99 cents, you'd think, if you want the story, 99 cents, most people can afford 99 cents, but I don't know.
I think go ahead.
I was just sorry. I was going to say, I think it's less about the money and more about the noise. It's just there's so much content out there, and I won't even say there's clutter, because there's a ton of good comics. There are more good comics online and on the shelves than I can read on a monthly basis right now. There's just we're fortunate to be in a glut of good stuff, but it's just it's getting lost in the shuffle.
I think too, like like sales, it sort of like depends too, like on what people like are going to assign value to, depending on like where they're at and stuff. Like so, like if you're at a going to a webcomic type situation and you're reading your webcomic and there's like a PayPal button to download a PDF, you might not click it. To whereas like if you're buying your comics on Comixology or something, and you're buying all these comics for 99 cents, and that's one of them, you don't think about the 99 cents. You know what I mean? Or like buying off Amazon or something like that. Or if you're at a con and you're going to buy a book, of course you're going to pay for it. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I hear what you're saying. Oddly enough, I only recently got Eye of the Gods on Comixology because it's been available digitally for a few years now, both through the Payload site, and also I had it on Amazon's Kindle Comic Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first put it on Kindle, they have that 90-day exclusivity period.
Yeah.
And because of that, I waited, and then when that period was over, I submitted it to Comixology, and they rejected it. I went back, changed some stuff to the file. They rejected it again. And it was one of those things where I just went back and forth, and I was like, what's going to take them to get the... It was just one of those things where they didn't even go back and forth a lot. It was more that because it was a graphic novel instead of a single issue, I guess they really took their time going through and vetting it. So because it was a longer book, they took much longer. Because I was able to get all 3 issues of Morningstar up way before Eye of the Gods was available. Because it's just, I guess they're used to just cranking through single issues, but with a graphic novel, they want to really sit and make sure that it's up to the quality of what they want to have there. But now that it's out there, I actually haven't had a chance to look on there lately because for some reason, I haven't found a place where they print like a regular order report. Like I think they just give you a quarterly statement of what you sold, but I don't think you can actually check on like a daily or weekly basis and see what your books are coming out at.
Yeah.
I might be wrong about that, but that's just I looked so far and I haven't found it.
Yeah. I was wondering, so what about Amazon? Did you get any sales? Because I keep hearing about Amazon, and I keep wondering why it doesn't work for comics when it works for books.
Well, there's two thoughts. One, I think it does work for comics. I have a friend of mine, and I keep asking him what he's been doing with his book because he still gets 5 to 10 sales a month on Amazon of issues of a comic that he's doing. And his is more of a sci-fi noir comic. And he just consistently continues to sell. And whereas my stuff doesn't on Amazon. It does sell to some degree, but it's more like when I make a push, I'm directing people to it, that's when they sell.
Yeah.
The other thing is I listen to some podcasts that are just about self-publishing, and they're a lot more prose and sci-fi authors. But they're talking, because I honestly feel like even though comic books are its own particular industry and it does have different quirks, I feel like the problem of getting people to buy books and getting stuff to sell your stuff, prose authors are dealing with that same problem as we are, and it makes sense for me to look at what they're going through because you're a lot likely to find answers if you have thousands of people working on a problem as opposed to hundreds of people working on it, and comics is its own smaller subset. So I look at what prose authors are doing, and the thing that I have gleaned is that it's having a catalog of titles. You can have one really good book, and if you have a following, then you'll make sales. And there are every once in a while there's those flash-in-the-pan people that, like your 50 Shades of Grey, that just go through the roof.
Yeah.
But what typically happens for authors that build a sustainable audience, it's that you publish that first book and you've got low sales, and you publish a second book and you've got a little bit more, that third book and that fourth book. And it's really when you have 5 or 6 books on Amazon, that's where you get that tipping point where somebody will buy one and then they like it and they there's a whole bunch here for me to go through right away, and they will go through that, and then you get the point where people start leaving a lot of reviews and comments on your book, and that's when it starts going up into the ranks where more people are seeing it and browsing it casually that aren't even coming through the comics ecosystem. They're just finding it through Amazon's ecosystem because it's doing well. And that's when you get to the point where you start making a lot of sales. I haven't spoken to any comic authors that have a large number of books on there, like indie authors.
Yeah.
I think that the logic probably holds true. That if you're an indie author and you've got 5 or 6 books on there and you have more stuff coming on a regular basis, if you're publishing 1 or 2 titles a year, I think that might make a difference.
Yeah. No, I think that could be true, and I've been hearing that same thing, especially with it's just self-published authors saying that it doesn't take off on the first book, it takes off on the third book, write series and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is part of it, like you said. If you're not getting sales when you're not making that big push, maybe it is, their thing too of having kind of that established audience that comes back and buys, and then it just builds from that or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've honestly thought about the fact that I feel like I'm audience building by doing these shows, and even though my sales aren't full time kind of money, it's one of those things where it's building the audience. But I often think to myself, if I just put my head down and just cranked until I had 5 graphic novels worth of stuff done, and then just came back and was all right, I've got 5 books here, have them on as many platforms as possible, and then just try and get a new book every year. I kind of like the I don't know what his business is in terms of how well he's doing, but Doug TenApel, the Earthworm Jim guy,
there
was a while there where he was putting out a graphic novel a year every year, and at first I know one of the first ones I saw was on Top Shelf, and then he was doing a bunch through Image. I'm not sure who's publishing his stuff now. Oh wait, no, Scholastic. I think he switched over. Yeah, he started doing more kid-focused stuff, more all-ages books, and I think those started going through Scholastic. Yeah, I mean, and that sounds like a gold mine right there. Once you get into that whole like the Scholastic Book Club thing, and your books being put right in kids, in kids' schools. It's like, yeah, people are buying it. Teachers are buying it for their the librarians are buying it for the books. It just sounds like that's just a great place to be. Of course, I write books about devils and demons and monsters. So they're not going to work for me. But I think that is a way to go if you've got kid-friendly material. I think it's a great way to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's what everybody's wanting. It's just like some kind of marketplace where you get that fair shake. You know what I mean? Where you get that you're on the same shelf with the rest of it, and then let's see who can sell. You know what I mean? But if that's so tough to get to that spot, and or to find that spot, the equivalent to that on the net. You know what I mean? But that's what I struggle with.
Yeah, that's true.
You can put it on Amazon, but if you're like at the very bottom of everything and you never come up in any kind of search, then you're never going to sell anything, to somebody that doesn't already know you. And the same thing with eBay or any other place, or your store on Store Envy. I don't know.
It's how does anybody make a name in anything,
Right. Everybody starts at the bottom. You're right.
If you're selling books on Amazon, yeah, if you have more books, there's a chance more people will see one of your books pop up accidentally. Or if they're looking at one book, they'll see the list of other books you've worked on, maybe grab a couple instead of just one.
And good work, you know what I mean? I can't discount that too. Like people buy something they like and they tell their buddies about it, I mean, that works too. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably how. Go ahead, Peter.
just like us, on YouTube and trying to make a presence, trying to make an impact. It's not like somebody goes on YouTube and sees, I don't know how many videos are on YouTube now, say 3 billion. It's like the chances of seeing any of our videos as opposed to, like all the other billions, are very, very slim. But you look under specific catalog, like art, or, in my case, comics, in your case, realistic illustration, or, however it's broken apart across, YouTube.
Right. Just by your interest, that sends you into similar videos, and eventually you get down to possibly where we are somewhere in that web of You're right. I mean, you, like what you just said there is totally right. So.
Oh, there was something else I was going to mention about Amazon. I don't know how this has changed since Comixology was bought by Amazon, but with Amazon having that 90-day exclusive, that was one thing that I would have a book I'd put it released digitally, but it'd only be available on Kindle. And there's obviously a lot of people that are like, well, I don't have a Kindle, or I want to just read a PDF, or I just want to read a CBZ, or what have you. And I did find that was kind of frustrating to have to be exclusive, because it may be possible to put something on Amazon without it being exclusive in your initial update, because you only have to be exclusive for 90 days. And you can renew that exclusivity, and you get, I guess, higher ratings in the Amazon search engine. But I've actually thought about if Comixology were up and running when I first started the series, because I'd already started putting it on Kindle first, and what I would do is I would wait till the 90-day exclusive would end and then put on the other services. I think what I would do now is I would probably put the single issues on Comixology, and then put what would be the equivalent of a digital trade, put that on Amazon. That way I wouldn't have to take it down from Comixology because it's not the same book.
Oh, I see.
And then once the 90-day exclusivity runs out on Amazon, then come back and release the trade digitally on Comixology.
Yeah.
That way you get to double dip.
Do you? I'm trying to think, but I didn't think that you had to actually be exclusive on Kindle from like day one. It was like an opt-in thing. You know what I mean? I thought that you could actually just publish like non-exclusive. I can't remember what that's called, like KDP or something like that.
Oh, KDP is the exclusive service, and I believe the same thing that you believe. I just haven't found the resource to actually say that. Like, I haven't found out how to do it yet.
Can't find the box that unchecked. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I probably need to just ask some people that are better versed at publishing on Kindle than I am, because I've talked to other friends I know, and they either did the same thing I did, which was they put it on, they did the 90-day exclusivity first, or they were people who came on before KDP existed and their books were already on there, so they weren't exclusive in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, because I believed the same thing you did. I think that as I look through Amazon's help website, they don't make it obvious how to do it non-exclusive because they don't want you to be non-exclusive.
Right. Yeah.
And that's
totally.
that's the resource I had been using, was just trying to go through their site and look for the answer and not having found it yet.
I wonder too, like with Comixology. I mean, because like the problem I have with that site, like when I go there looking for comics, I'm like, I feel like I'd be a reader for maybe some of your stuff, but you get there and it's like it's so just kind of it's so owned by the superhero material, which I'm sure it is because that's what's coming out most regularly. But like what I find is like it's hard to search anything in there. Like where do you even look for like like in a comic shop I can go in, I can look and I see the superhero racks and all that, and then I'll just look around until I find like the more unusual stuff I like, But it's tough on that Comixology site to just kind of browse. And I notice like in some of the free comics, like I always look and see what's free. Like you'll see indie comics in there for free, and you can kind of like read the first one and stuff. I wonder if you could do something like that. Is it hard to make it free on there, or like maybe just the first one free or something?
That's something I haven't explored yet, and I should. I actually have a couple of unpublished comics that I'm thinking about releasing through a few different platforms. And honestly, I wanted to put it on my website, but also make it available to a few different comics aggregators, just because there are people who, even though I haven't done like sales with them, they've been supportive of my work and helping spreading it. So I kind of wanted to do it both because it's unpublished material that I don't have any plans to do in print or collect anytime soon. So I'm like, why let it just sit there? And then also kind of as a thank you for people like on the business side that have been supportive of me as an indie creator. So,
right.
But yeah, definitely making stuff free on Comixology is a good move. Getting people at least to the first issue.
Comics are a tough one to figure out how to market. It's such a darn specific niche that you might or might not be into. It's not like sticking like a Spider-Man picture up. I don't know.
Hey guys, I'm gonna take off. I'll
catch you guys
later, and I'll probably watch the rest of this video tomorrow while I'm working. So
take it easy.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Later.
All right, Scott.
Yeah. And then there were 3.
It's like an
a horror movie. Right.
Yes.
We got to battle down to 2 and see who takes the crown. See who's the sole survivor. So, I don't know. What else you got about the, marketing comics, Jeremy?
Oh. Well, the thing is, I always feel... I feel weird about giving anyone advice about the marketing side, because I always tell them, well, my whole thing is, try it, fall on my face, try it, fall on my face, try it. Oh, this doesn't completely suck. Like I am such the trial and error type guy, and also I think I'm a lot more of. I get it. I try to pull in as much advice as I can from like other sources, but I've got like a laundry list of things that I feel like I should be doing that I wasn't doing. Like I know we were talking about the mailing list stuff before, and the fact that I only got my mailing list with like I've got a pretty substantial giveaway now because someone can read like a sketchbook of the first 3 issues. But the fact that I've been meaning to do it for well over 6 months, probably a year now, that I've been meaning to do it and just hadn't gotten around to collecting that sketchbook. I'm trying to think what else is on my list of marketing to-dos.
Yeah. I think a mailing list is actually super smart, and I don't know. It took me forever to like make one too, and I don't know. I wish I'd have done it like 10 years ago, but.
There was something I wanted to mention. Jason Brubaker has got 15 hours left on his Cythera Kickstarter campaign, which he set up for a goal of 17,000. It is currently at 48 and a half. So it makes 100 grand.
So he's 15 hours away. Yeah, he made like 100,000 on his last one, I'm pretty sure. So this one's coming in at about 40. He was talking. Did you ever get a chance to go over and listen to the latest podcast with him and that Daniel Lesky?
No, not yet.
He was talking about like in the end of it, like how he's tried to kind of pull back, and I've noticed that he's, because he used to do his own making of comics podcasts and stuff, and now he's got like 2 other guys on there, sort of running that site. And he, in the podcast, he just kind of like talked a lot about how he kind of just pulled back from all the kind of making comic stuff and everything, and just was trying to kind of more just work on his books and stuff. I wonder if that, is why this one's coming in a lot lower. I mean, not to say it's wrong. 48,000. That sounds good to me.
I think it has a lot to do with where it is, but it's it's just a webcomic he created online, and it's already a book. I don't know. It just I know it's his business model, but it just seemed not long enough. I don't know.
What do you mean, the Making Comics book, or?
No, Cythera, the webcomic itself, like how it was. He posted, I guess, multiple pages at a time. I'm trying to see. Okay. This book will be the first in a series of 5 or 6 books, depending on how long it takes me. I don't know. I'm not going to find it.
Yeah. No.
Anyway.
Cool.
I think he posted, and I could look it up, I guess, but I'm horrible at reading and doing the Hangout at the same time.
Yeah.
It was whatever it was, 7 chapters, or and it's already collected into his first volume.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem like enough. Remind took a lot longer, and it was a hefty story, and he built up a whole following over time, and I know he's like a lot smoother now. It should be for him, but even so.
No, that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I didn't give to his campaign. A friend of mine did, and he's always sending me the emails he sends out. And I know that like with the last campaign, like the $100,000 one, there was like, I don't know, I shouldn't talk about that stuff, but something like, you know, he printed all the books, but then like one of the stretch goals was like another book, and he was talking about having to run another Kickstarter to print that book or something, and I don't know.
A Kickstarter for the reward of the first Kickstarter?
That's what my friend was saying. I don't know if that's like true or not, but I don't know. Those Kickstarters can get out of control quick with like that many orders in that kind of short time. I don't know.
Well, you know, when it comes right down to it, there are Kickstarters that they put together, a graphic novel or comic or whatever, that barely pay for that to be made, shipped, and then all the multiple rewards and all that jazz. And then there's Kickstarters which are set up. Like I've seen a couple where it's, you know, the writer or publisher is putting together a book, but is paying for the artist and the colorist and the letterer, and, you know, like out of the pocket of whatever the Kickstarter makes. So
yeah, I know.
You know, there's definitely different ways of doing it.
You see those like in that where they write them out and they like say that, you know, they say like, okay, I wanted to put together a comic, and this is the writer I've got, this is the artist I got, this is money to pay these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like real upfront for it. But you know, then you also see guys like, I mean, even like the Remind guy. You know, I don't want to make this all about him, but it's like, you know, you're printing a book for like, yeah, let's just. No, but I mean, you're printing a book for like, say, you need 14,000, like he's saying, to print books, which that's like a lot of money right there. You come in at 58,000. You know what I mean? Is he just printing out that whole 58,000 so that now he's like having like 250,000 books delivered to his house, or is he actually just printing like what he needs, what he planned on before, and then the rest of that money it's like sales. It's like selling a book. You know what I mean? Because there's profit there, and that's what you're doing on a Kickstarter too. You know, every one of those pre-orders is basically like a sale. If you're doing a Kickstarter just for your money, just to print the book, I guess that makes sense too. Like if you're just like planning to print the book and then all that money goes to the printing and then you're selling the books afterwards. But you also sold the books. You sold some of the books to the people who ordered them. So it's like you're almost kind of like selling those for nothing. And does that make sense to you guys? I'm throwing too much. Well, I'm just saying, like, if you overfund to 50,000 and if you overfund to 100,000, you know what I mean, though? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like those guys with the $1 million one, you know, it's just like there's got to be some profit in there somewhere, I would think. I mean, these guys that run Kickstarters, they got to have profit in there somewhere, or what's the point of doing it? I mean, I could understand like a low one if you just don't have a book, but like if you're, anything above $5,000, there's got to be some kind of profit, doesn't there? How many books does $5,000 buy? Give a calculator.
It would have easily paid for my first print run of my graphic novel.
Right.
And again, my work, I specifically work in black and white to keep the printing cost down.
Right.
So that's one of those things where, I mean, I also feel like working in, I would have to budget for a colorist because it would take me way too long to color the stuff myself, and it was just something that I didn't feel like it was something I wanted to take on. In terms of managing another creative on the process. It's probably smarter to do it that way, seeing as how that's how the whole industry runs. But I'm a bit of a control freak, and I kind of like to do the whole thing myself. Yeah,
comics are such a long process too. To keep a guy on board that's coloring it through the whole thing, and then if you got to switch colors, things are going to start looking different. That's a tough one, especially being indie. You're in love with your work, so. I
look at the way kind of like what Jeff Smith does with Steve Hammaker. Like, if I were ever fortunate enough to make something that was like half as popular as Bone, a quarter popular as Bone, and it went into reprints and people had a demand for it, then I'm like, okay, I would bring in a colorist and bring them in as a collaborator. We'd figure out the color palette together, and then I'm like, all right, we've figured out, we've discussed what the expectations for the book are. Now I'm going to get the hell out of your way and just let you work.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing where it would be the demand had already been proven for it, and then I'd be like, all right, well now we're going to go back. We're going to recolor the whole series. So it's not like I'm like anti, doing a color series. It's more just it's going to be if there's demand, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
If you're selling 100 books of your comic, but you know that a colored comic you could possibly sell 500 books, then you probably take the time. Maybe.
Well,
Maybe not.
well, here's the thing. It's also going to cost. It's not going to necessarily cost 5 times more to print, but close. I think in order to make color printing profitable, you've got to get out of the, 1,000 range and get into the 3,000, 5,000 range.
Yeah.
Before that, the price breaks I don't think are enough where you're really. Look at it this way: I could say you could do something that's sustainable. It still doesn't mean it's profitable.
Right.
So.
Well, I agree with that, but also, like what we've been talking about. It's the age of print on demand too. If you're actually selling your print on demand copies and you didn't want to do a big print run, you still could probably afford to do it. I don't know if you'd make any money doing it.
Well, I think it ends up being the same problem. It's the same kind of chicken and the egg situation, because then obviously you're making way, way less profit, but you're not coming out of pocket. Whereas, you could be coming out of profit and making a lot of it back, but you're still kind of operating by the skin of your teeth. So it's a matter of how much gambler you are. And that's one of the things I say about entrepreneurship. People that succeed in it are people that have a propensity for they don't have an aversion to high risk scenarios.
Yeah, I could believe that. You got to be a little crazy to try and make your own business.
Yeah,
it's gotta be something.
It's what this whole country was founded on, was that kind of craziness. So it's not a bad thing to have. But, and to be honest, I think most of the people that succeed in business, it's the same thing as building that audience or running a Kickstarter. You try it and you get slapped down. You try it and you get slapped down. You try it and you get a little bit more success. Most of the people that are running successful businesses these days, it's certainly not their first business.
Right.
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 There's a reason why some people that are millionaires now have been bankrupt 2 or 3 times in their life.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. Has anybody seen, the guy that was on here when the show started, Paul Caggegi or whatever his name is? Has anybody seen his book that he's done? Is it a color book by any chance?
Yeah.
It was a color book?
Yeah.
So I think he was the one who just said, like, we were saying it was like about $4 a book. Was that him, or was that actually you, Jeremy?
That was him, probably, because I think my unit price is, I think definitely not that high for a color book. Definitely.
That's it right there. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Right. Okay.
That's the book.
To be honest, I went in when I was first looking for that. I went through. I looked at a lot of print-on-demand places, and just a lot of them have those calculators, so you can figure out exactly how much you're going to spend, and you can look and see how much your book is going to be if you do it in color.
Totally.
So.
Totally. But I think he went to an offset printer from what he was saying with that, and then did like a print run of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's still like a good profit, you know. Like, what did he say his kicks? He got like $5,000 or something, didn't he? I mean, if he ran out the whole thing on books, that's like $1,200.
Well, I'm sure. Well, like you said, he got stuck with some of the shipping costs, but I'm guessing he probably factored. Probably should have asked him specifically, but I'm guessing he factored in some of the shipping, but still got dinged on top of that.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, a $4 book, I'm like, I mean,
in his.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over.
My brother, in his earliest Kickstarter, ran into that with overseas, shipping. It's just you can calculate and just still screw it up.
I know it.
Because it's just difficult to figure everything out.
There's so many rules, and especially if you're like doing product that you don't have yet. Like just like with my prints, like this here a couple weeks ago, I'd always have I have my bigger prints just like astronomical shipping, it's like $14 shipping to the UK and stuff, and I thought, oh, that's fine, that's never going to get over it. But like when people buy multiple prints, I noticed I started somebody buy like 3 prints and it all go in the same package. I take it to the post office and it would get it over like 2 and something pounds, and all of a sudden it's like it ships as like an irregular large package instead of just a normal large package, and my shipping was like $25, and I'm just like, oh my god, and I don't know, I feel like I'm good at shipping, you know what I mean, and then it's just like something like that, it's just so hard to, you know what I mean, because it's like usually when you're selling something, if somebody wants one more thing, you're like, yeah, throw it on, no more shipping, But like right there, then it's just like it takes all your profit if you do it wrong. So I don't know.
Not for nothing, but I used to work in mailrooms, and I used to run a mailroom at one point, and I used to know exactly how everything shipped and the prices, and I mean everything like the back of my hand. But we also had equipment that helped us figure stuff out. But this is going back, 80s,
right?
1980s.
Well, like right around, yeah.
Right
in between,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. There must be a little delay going or something. Well, right in between, I don't know, when I was doing sketch cards before to now, the post office was apparently going broke or something, and they changed the shipping prices, and that's when they really changed the international shipping to just outrageous, crazy prices. And because I used to be able to do free shipping everywhere and just kind of absorb my shipping costs in my packages. And I remember sending sketch cards over to, the UK and not being more like $6, And now it's like, unless you got $20 on that thing extra, you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't honestly understand how these guys are still buying stuff. You know what I mean? Over there. It's just such a hard hit right off the bat. You'd think they'd just be like, oh, fuck that. I'll buy stuff from the UK.
Well, I guess, what we create isn't created over there, or I don't know.
I guess not, yeah. With books, though, you do have, media mail. I don't know how the media mail works overseas because I don't sell many books, or I don't sell any books, so I haven't shipped any books that way, but I know media mail is quite a bit cheaper than first class. So
I don't know if media mail works internationally or not. I think it might only be a U.S. thing, but again, talk it out of my ass. How most of my verbs expel themselves.
We need a post office representative here.
Yeah.
on the show from now on. We need to get somebody like that in the Artcasters, Peter. I put it on the list.
No, I'm surprised that there isn't somebody who's created a Kickstarter calculator. So if you can simply say, all right, these are my rewards, this is the weight, and it's literally like, as you put in your tiers, you can have some sort of calculator that can just say, all right, if they subscribe and they get like extra things added, it'll just tell you, well, this is what the weight's going to be if they get like reward, if they get tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 rewards all bundled up together, you'll just say, oh, we've recalculated the weight. Their reward is actually going to cost this much to ship, where you thought it was going to cost that much. I mean,
I love that idea.
It sounds like there's a...
Well, you just figured out how to make money. if you could create that.
See, that's the difference there. I don't know how to sit down and actually program an app to do that, but look at it as a freebie. The person who does know how to do that can go and build that app. Actually, that'd be an interesting idea. You do a Kickstarter to have that app built.
I know it. That's not a bad idea.
Oh, it's so incestuous. It just eats its own tail.
I know it. I know it.
I'm a fan of the recursive feedback loop.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Kickstarter, I mean, that's like the thing about Kickstarter. It's so inviting, you know, you sit there and you look at those numbers and you just go, God, you know, guy's making more money than you made, you know, in the last 2 years and stuff. And you're just like, man, that's how you make money. But then, I don't know. I think there's a lot more to so many of those campaigns, especially when I hear shit like that, Order the Stick still shipping out his rewards and stuff. You're like, I don't know. It's not as easy as it looks.
You figure what do you make, $1 million? If you make that much, you must have some crazy amount of rewards going to how many countless people. It's not going to take a weekend to do.
Yeah. I would, you know, like, you'd think with, like, that much money, you could just set up, you know, rent a warehouse and just, you know, get a couple of guys, and that's their job for 6 months.
You don't have $1 million extra. It's like, you got to cut off the cost, and then the shipping, and then the rewards.
But
you're only probably dealing with 10,000. I don't know. You know.
No, $1 million to make 10,000 bucks. That's like the worst business model ever. So I wouldn't doubt somebody pull that on Kickstarter.
Well, that's what they say. That joke's like, how do you make a small fortune in comics? Start with a large one.
There you go. But that was back to my point of, like, you know, with the overfunding goals and all that kind of stuff, is it's like, when do you start hitting it where you make it profit? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I was talking about with, like, you know, Brubaker and his $50,000. You know, what do you do with that extra money? If he does Sithra and he makes $50,000, and he did Remind and he made $100,000. And he basically does the same thing, and I don't know if he is or not. I didn't look at his goals or rewards or whatever. But, like, at some point, some of that money's profit. And if it isn't, then I think that he maybe is not running his business right.
Well, look, if he has a business model where, you know, he's created books already, and he sells the original artwork, and he sells commissions, or, you know, whatever else he's doing, if that makes him his monthly income, then he could use the Kickstarter to simply, you know, create something new and special at no profit, and it wouldn't faze him.
That could be. And I know he works at DreamWorks too, so I know he has a job. Yeah, I mean, you might be right. I mean, it's different.
DreamWorks?
I don't know. Just from, like, listening to his podcast, so who knows what that means? Maybe he's just freelance and gets freelance gigs from him once in a while or something.
He drew a funny car once, and he was.
Yeah.
I work for DreamWorks.
Well,
totally.
I'll tell you this. DreamWorks is from. I actually haven't asked anybody who's worked there, but I feel like if you're somebody who enjoys animation, even if you didn't have to work anymore, you'd probably be like, oh, I still want to get up and go to that office every day. Because I've had jobs working. I was an intern at Nickelodeon when I was in college, and it was the best job I never got paid for. I was like, if I could find a way to just get up every day and go into that office just to be there, I would. So, I mean, maybe he doesn't have to do it, but he's doing it because he enjoys the environment.
Yeah, you might be right. Maybe he just doesn't want to quit that kind of place. So. Could be.
I didn't even know he had a podcast. Who knows? Maybe he talked about some of that stuff on some of his episodes. I mean, have you just listened to a few, or have you actually listened to a lot of episodes?
I probably listened to every one of his. They were great. I mean, they were like one of my favorite podcasts. They were called The Making Comics, and it was him and the guy Daniel Leski that does Worm World. You ever seen that comic?
Yeah.
No, I'll have to check it out.
It's amazing.
It's a really awesome comic, yeah. He's like a German guy, and those podcasts when they were both on there were just awesome, and a gold mine, and just all about the kind of stuff that we talk about and stuff. But then now, like whenever he decided he doesn't want to be part of that anymore, he got these kind of two younger kids that are on there, and I don't know, you might like it, but I don't like it. It's just
it's like Saved by the Bell, the next generation.
Right. It's totally like, yeah. They're just so like, all the comic advice that I just think just gets you nowhere. They just spout it. You know what I mean? All the stuff that, all this stupid self-examination and all the stuff that just, I don't know, just gets you tied into a knot and just doesn't get you anywhere. They love that kind of advice. I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there who like those shows. Hey, Jeremy, I actually did go listen to that one podcast you suggested, though. Ink Spots or whatever you call that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Well, I mean, it gets the whole point. It sounds like it's like they get into the stuff that a lot of people actually talk about publicly, because it really is like, this is what it's like to try and make a living as an artist, and we all know what it's like because we're doing it. But it's interesting to hear other people talking about it and it not be a pity party, but to me it feels like having commiseration. It's sort of like there's someone else in the trenches. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like other people trading war stories. That's what it should be called.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I don't know. I listened to a couple. I'll probably go back and listen to some more after I kind of recover.
You need a breather. You gotta take it down a notch, right?
It's pretty heavy stuff. I don't know. It was definitely not what I expected. It's like no other art podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because you get into all that heady personal and emotional stuff, but then you also get people talking about technique and craft, process.
Yeah, which is cool.
But I was thinking when you were talking about the other show, the Making Comics show, and just the advice that people tie themselves into knots and not really getting anywhere with it. I think about a lot of this stuff, and I feel like that old saying where it's like the harder I work, the luckier I get. Yeah. And I feel like all of this stuff, it's not just one thing. It's not just listening to the business advice. It's not just becoming a good artist. And it's not just the luck of being at the right place at the right time. And it's not just being persistent. It's like you've got to do all of those things, and then it still may take years.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think that part of it is like because I'm older. Because I think like 10 years ago, I might have like wanted to listen to like a lot of that stuff when I was a lot more into like improving my stuff and all that kind of stuff. Not that I'm still not, but you know what I mean. I think there was a point when I really was just dedicated to getting like better, and I just didn't really care about any of like the selling or anything. I just was like trying to just get better at it. And I don't know, but it's just it was a different stage in my life, I think, And I realized that I'm just stuck where I am. That's all I can do. I'm kidding.
I'm trying to think of like.
You want to be stuck.
But you know, honestly, I think that I think out of all of the ingredients, persistence is probably the most important one.
I kind of agree with you. I really do.
Yeah, there's definitely days where you look at this and even if you love it, you're just like, it's not necessarily, oh, I'm tired or more down. It's, what is this worth in the long run? And we value it because we value the process. We value what we're getting out of the act of making it. But it's also that question of, well, what am I building my life towards? Not even having a legacy behind, but just sort of like, when does it get easier? when do I get a reward? Give me a, it's like playing a video game where you're going through all those levels, you're getting your ass handed to you, and just when you're about to smash your controller, you get that one up. That thing or Mario Brothers, you go through that portal, it drops you out someplace, it's full of gold coins, and even if you know there's going to be them damn turtles right on your ass, the next level, it's just that every once in a while you want that boost, you want that little something, that little reward, that jump that says, keep going. And the hard part is to keep going when you haven't gotten that in a long time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I thought you were going to...
It's like...
Go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say, it's like a guy who has an office job, and he makes, whatever, $40,000 a year. He has a house, he has one car, and a wife. Then he gets a raise to $50,000. Then he'll get another car, and it's like whatever he makes, he's going to spend more. And it's like whatever break we get artistically, we're just going to pile more stuff on to make it challenging.
True, very true.
God, why? Yeah, you're just bumming me out. That's so true. That is so true. Every break you get, you just go, oh, that's okay. Now this is the new level. Yeah.
That's right. Well, I definitely don't make my career easy. It's I don't go for the easy answers. I go for what gets me jazzed.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, persistency. It's, I don't know. When I look at myself, compared to some of my friends who've dropped off, you know what I mean, and like you too, Peter. It's like I know you've been around for like forever and a day, you know what I mean? You're still plugging away at it, and that's probably why you get to where you get, I don't know.
Well, there's times when I feel like I'm kind of a coward for holding down the day job, because it's almost like if I know what I want is to write and draw stuff, it's like, why don't I just go balls out? But I feel like I'm trying to temper that between there's a smart way to do it, and then there's just jumping in and getting your ass handed to you. And it's like I'm trying to figure out how to not get my ass handed to me, because I'd rather not hold my ass in my hands.
Have you ever done it? I mean, how old are you, Jeremy? Let me ask you that first.
I'm rounding 40.
Oh, are you? Okay.
So I'm not a spring chicken.
Yeah. You look so dang young. I thought you were like 22. Like, what's this kid talking about?
my prepubescent, high-pitched voice and boyish charm and smile that fools everyone. No, I am haggard, long in the tooth, and bathing in infant's blood every night helps. My feet are soaking right now. You can't see that. I mean, I'm doing the screencast anyway. But even if I were doing the video thing, it's like you wouldn't be able to see. But just swish it around, soak my feet in it. Takes care of my bunions.
Yeah. But have you tried it yet? I mean, have you tried jumping out on your own, like yet on the art thing?
Only in the sense that the last time that I was unemployed for a lengthy period of time, I used that. I was still looking for work consistently, and I still took freelance jobs here and there.
Yeah.
But I used that time to publish my first graphic novel.
Right.
So that was the time where I was like, I don't have to report to anybody. As long as I got up every morning, did my job searches online, and run interviews here and there. I would just any time after I did what was my required duties in terms of job hunting, I would sit down and work on my book.
Yeah, that's awesome when you got like a chance like that, like when you're laid off or something, because then you got the excuse. You don't have to make the decision. You can just go for it,
Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes you do need a little bit of a push outside of a crib, but the thing I've found is that I was getting to the point where I really did, by the time I was done with the book, I was like, I really need to find something that's more stable, because I wasn't getting freelance gigs. But, it's that whole thing where you spend as much time trying to monitor, you spend as much time maintaining that business relationship and hunting for the new ones as you do actually doing the work. So it ends up being like, it ends up taking up as much time as a full-time gig, even if it's not a full-time gig.
Totally.
Yeah. But
totally. Yeah, I've done it like 3 times now, not including like my little stint in comics, and it sucks, man. Every time you fail, it stings like twice as hard, and then it's just twice as hard to try it again. So, I don't know if that helps anybody. That probably brought everybody down. But
cue the sad folk music. Part of it's the fact that I've been very, very fortunate to have day jobs that I really enjoy, and working with people that are good people. And I think that's the difference, because when you hate your job, it's really easy to say, screw this, I just want to be out of here. But most of the jobs I've had throughout my life have been creative jobs.
That's cool.
I mean, it's been a lot more of it's been graphic design than anything else, but I've had a chance to work, as an animator for some web companies and doing storyboard stuff, which, storyboarding I actually enjoy a lot, because, I mean, everybody loves movies.
Right.
Be able to be involved in the movie creation process is, really satisfying. But I think that's part of it.
That's true. If I had jobs I liked a little more, I might not have. I don't know, though. It just gets in me. It's like something that just gets in my head, and I just can't get rid of it. So. And it's like comics in a way or something. You know what I mean? You always got to do your comic no matter how freaking stupid a decision it is. It's like, how am I going to make money? There's no way. I'm doing it.
Well, I mean, I'm going through that right now, because after I finish this issue of Morningstar, I'm probably going to sit down and finish a few more art prints and put together an art book before I get to the next issue. Because I've had people that liked my work enough, they said, hey, when are you going to put an art book? Or they want to buy more than a couple of prints but don't necessarily have the budget. So, again, it's just a few people that said that. It's not like people are clamoring at my door saying, where's your art book? But it's another venue, and since I already have a bunch of the assets made, why not just finish a few more and put together... Like, it was one of the things we were talking about earlier, like the simpler soft cover print-on-demand thing. See how it does, and then if it does well, maybe put out... I don't think I initially would jump into putting out a higher quality big book right away. I really like the way that Mark Schultz has done his various drawings books, where he's got, like, I think out of the 5 volumes he's published plus the Carbon book, I have the Carbon book and 4 out of the 5 various drawing books. And for me, that's like a format that it really comes down to, as long as your printer is a good printer and they can give you good quality paper, which the print-on-demand places I've been using have been able to do that, then it really comes down to how good of a book designer you are. And I'm a decent book designer, so I think I can put together something that looks pretty high-end, just with with tools that aren't necessarily the best printer on, going out and spending a ton on a hardcover deluxe book with, spot varnish and all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. Well, even like the Kablam books, I mean, they look good, though. I mean, I've had people come up to me and hand me their Kablam sketchbooks, and they're like fucking awesome, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're right. I mean, the quality-wise, it's a lot of it's how you know, how good you put it together and stuff, so.
Yeah. But, I mean, in terms of, like, the comic stuff, yeah, I know that making comics is what I really, you know, am passionate about. But there's other ways I can monetize my artwork. But I also look at it like the day job, I feel like it's monetized. The day job is paying for the publishing of the books. Because I definitely think from how I've done so far with self-publishing, if I were just doing this full-time, I probably wouldn't be able to afford to go to as many conventions as as I'd like to. Like, there's people, like, you know, Jeff, you've got a pretty big audience. You know, both you and Peter both have a pretty big audience. I know a lot of people that have audiences but still can't afford to travel as much just because it's expensive to do shows.
Right.
So maybe only do 2 or 3 shows a year as opposed to doing a whole bunch. I'm intentionally. I looked at my schedule. By the end of this year, I'll have done 10 shows this year, which for some people that's a lot. For some people, that's not. Like, I know people that do 30 or 40 shows a year. They're literally, that's it. That's their business. Yeah. I'm like, how do you find time to draw?
I know. How do you find time to do work when you're traveling like that all the time? But
well, for a lot of those guys, it's like their weekends are all business. When they come back during the week, they may spend a day recovering. You know, so they'll give themselves a day off, and then they'll spend a day drawing and working on what stuff they're going to release that's new, and then they start prepping for the next show, and then they're heading back out the door by the end of the week. But still, with that, as long as if they're putting it a day or 2 in, and they're just doing art prints, that's not too different. I mean, I get to really only draw on the weekends anyway. I get a little bit in the evenings during the week, but they're kind of doing the same thing as me, but they're putting out more work because they're doing art prints as opposed to doing a whole comic like I am.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's the awesome thing about prints. It's just a lot easier to get to the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not as many pages to get through to get to a sale point.
Yeah, I know there's an artist, Shelby Robinson, and I don't know, every time I check out his Facebook page, he's constantly going to conventions.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Shelby Robinson?
It's like him and his girlfriend or wife, I forget, just jump in the car and they go from one convention to another. But he's always been a guy who like just turned out one print after another. And he's like a machine, and I get what he can during the week, and weekends are conventions.
Wow.
You know,
what kind of prints is he making? Like, what's the subject matter?
It's all comic book stuff, you know, comic book heroes, all DC.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Comic related stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And it's very splashy and you know, colorful. You know, it gets great colorist stuff. I think he's actually doing his own coloring now. So he could be full production, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know, but that's serious business.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think there's quite a few guys, because I've been kind of looking on the net, and I think that I've found quite a few where I'm like, this guy has got to be, like, bringing in the cash, just looking at what he's doing, where he's traveling, you know, and the prints they're selling. It seems like a legitimate business, you know, way to run a business is just hit these cons and sell stuff. And, you know, a lot of it's based on just like when I went to the Denver con, which is the only con I've been to, you know, lately, and just like the sales and stuff of just my own prints there. And, man, I didn't even have that many, you know what I mean? I just had my sketch card prints, and I did pretty well for just sitting at a table, not even drawing, not even selling original stuff, you know. So if you came like with the big prints, the $20 prints, you know, I think you could really rake in some cash.
So that's, you know, there's a guy, I know Jeff Belkey, and he's a colorist. He's colored for Zenescope and just random places, some image stuff, and he does a lot of prints. I mean, he's been doing it for years, and he's made that into enough of a business to go the next step, which is now he's making his own comics.
So I know when I hear that, it's almost kind of like what I think sometimes is like, can I get this working well enough with like prints or something where I could sort of step back and do a comic or something, because I still got the bug, or do a book or some sort of thing like that with my own stuff, and I think that in a way maybe you can, by like playing both sides of the fence, and it's not that different than when you look at a guy like I don't know, like a big convention guy, Adam Hughes, where he goes, he makes a ton of money at these conventions, sketching, doing originals and stuff. And I don't know if he sells prints, but whether he's doing it or not, there's still tons of guys that are working for Marvel that do have a bunch of prints sitting on their table, just like the guy you mentioned right there. You know what I mean? It seems like a legitimate way to make money and then also fund your side project or your main project, which would be your comic, And it's not that different than what a lot of webcomics people are doing, probably.
I mean,
a lot of them do commissions, a lot of them do prints, and not necessarily prints of their own stuff,
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
What were you saying, Jeremy?
I was just going to say, so, more like the idea where the prints are the day job.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, no, because I don't think, I do not mean that in a pejorative sense at all.
I know, just the way you said it, so just like, no, I have to quit the other day job.
No, it came out sounding pejorative. I do not mean it pejorative, because a day job, because being able to be your own boss and still your actual finances and your living, being your own boss, is a win for any creative.
Yeah.
And the idea of if the passion project is still there, if the passion project is making comics, that it's still there, and because that's kind of what I've thought about as my long-term goal, is to transition to the idea that, because prints have been becoming more and more of my business since I started publishing, it was all comics and I wasn't selling art prints, to selling more and more, and now it's about 50-50 at conventions. If it became a thing where I made my living doing art prints and original artwork, and I still had the same amount of time to work on comics, it still took me just as long to put out an issue, but instead of going to an office, I'm sitting down and I'm making more art, making my own art. That to me is like, that's the idea of making the day job a win. That's what I'm. So I totally wanted to turn day job into a happy word.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's pretty much like, in a way, like that is what I was talking about. It's just, then your day job's promoting your comic in a way, because you're sitting there at a table, whether you're selling prints or talking about your comic to somebody, it works. So I don't know. It's a good idea.
You get on it.
So I'm sure we could talk more, but I'm thinking of wrapping it up soon.
I had no idea.
You guys.
Well, Peter has to get up and make breakfast pretty soon.
That's right.
It was funny. It was a productive conversation,
Cats
honestly.
are going to feed themselves.
Right. It was a productive conversation, though. I got a lot out of it.
There was actually a lot of knowledge going back and forth. I realized I'm going to need to go back and rewatch this, because there's parts where I was paying attention to what I was drawing and not listening. And I was like, wait, I should really pay attention to this. Just give me some good Kickstarter tips.
I do sometimes go back and watch them again, you know, because I agree. Sometimes I'll be just thinking of something else, or somebody will be mentioning something. I'll be like, oh, I gotta get back there and listen to that again. So there's definitely some stuff it's worth listening to. But yeah, thanks for hosting it again, Peter. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So we got the Studio Synergy tomorrow night. Kevin, this was supposed to be Monday night, you know, like Monday midnight. And he said he was originally going to come, but yeah, I think his band was playing tonight, so he might try to come to the Studio Synergy. And I know we have a few other people. We have Kelsey, that girl showed up before. I think she's coming in tomorrow. And Tiffany, and I'll be there.
Neat.
But yeah, I'm actually shocked though, like that we didn't get a big crowd tonight. But you know,
I didn't get in here and post on my blog and everything like I wanted to do today. I totally flaked out and was feeling lazy. So.
Well,
I know that brings in more people because then it kind of reminds everybody that it's tonight. I need to really be on that and do that, but I don't know. I'll try to promote it.
Maybe next time. I mean, you know, it's we had a full house, you know, a couple episodes ago, so I think it's just timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should just stick it at one time, you know, so people are kind of like more like it's, you know, at a certain time and you can count on it rather than like switching it around.
You want to try that for?
I don't know if you could like make it work with your schedule. I don't want to, you know, if you got to switch it with your schedule, but because it's like I know we switched it early that one time so that, you know, like Dave and like some of the UK guys could get on, but they've never come back after that, so maybe it just doesn't matter, you know.
That was midday. I mean, if you want to make it, what, 10 o'clock my time, which is 8 o'clock your time, is that too early?
I don't know. That's like 3 days that I gotta like skip the walking the dog and everything and hide away from everybody. It's hard, dude. I won't say no yet. It's just tough because it's like I don't know. That's just such the family time, and I hate to just cut into it.
So
I'm
we're
already
in 3 days.
cutting into it for because of the other two, like the drawing hangout we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those
Okay.
2 days. I don't know.
What,
Make it 10 o'clock my time.
which is midnight my time. Which is what tonight was,
I
right?
know. I'm sorry, Peter.
Oh, no.
You stay up pretty late anyway, don't you?
You know, my schedule's all over the place. I post videos like 2 days later.
What time do you guys... Yeah. What time do you guys do the studio? I've been having a hard time, honestly, posting my videos because I feel like I already do my videos. I'm hanging out with you guys all the time, and then I feel like I got to do another video after that. But what time do you guys do the synergy? Is that like the ideal time for you? Is like that 8 o'clock type thing? I mean, maybe we just gotta have to do that.
Well, I mean, I'm been varying that too. So there's no set time, but tomorrow's at 7. I think like 10 o'clock my time is like perfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that might not work so bad because Sundays is like the day we go and eat at my mom's and stuff, and so it is kind of like I'm with everybody all day anyway. It just would be a matter of me like having to get back here on time, which I usually can do that. So maybe that would be okay.
Okay, you let me know because
All right.
I'll make it midnight Sunday if that's better for you.
All right. Well, I don't know. I'll tell you.
We'll try it a couple weeks.
Yeah. I'll tell you before like
You know,
Wednesday when you
having a-
post usually. So how about that? Let me talk to
Okay.
my wife. Maybe this will work out.
Okay.
Uh,
I blame Jimmy.
sure.
I cause trouble everywhere I go.
Are those all like comic
But-
pages that are up on your wall back there, Jeremy?
Oh yeah, I've got like this is the whole. Hang on, because I'm gonna switch back because I was back to color again. This is the whole latest issue of the comic.
Oh man.
A buddy of mine, Carl Altstetter, he told me a long time ago, like just in terms of a motivational thing,
Yeah.
that he got into the habit. Like he worked with a bunch of the Image and Wildstorm guys a long time ago. And he told me that they would just, when they were working on books, they would just put the pages up as they finished them and having a whole wall where you can look and see the whole thing. It's like, it's good both for driving you and keeping you motivated, and also good just you'll be looking at a page and be like, oh wait, this character was wearing gloves in this panel that wasn't in that panel.
Yeah.
Even it's funny. I was actually laying on the couch yesterday, just kind of chilling out for a little bit, taking a break, and I was just looking up, staring at a panel. I realized sort of a continuity gaffe. I'm like, oh wait, I'm gonna need to go back and replace that panel digitally. So, but I find it very good on both levels. The there's something I'm proud of having a whole wall of comics behind me. That I can just see the whole thing. But yeah, so it's room for 24 pages plus the cover is in the corner behind my head. I actually do my covers in pencil, even though everything else is inked, because I started noticing with my art prints, I have some stuff that I did that were ink and colored. Then I have some stuff that were colored pencil drawings, and my prints that have been most successful are the penciled ones. So I thought, maybe I'll do my colors in the same style as my prints that sell better.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Some might say I should do the whole comic in that style, but that would take too long.
Yeah, no, it really makes it like, it shows like what a freaking accomplishment is to do a book. I mean, it's like a lot of art, and it's like dense, you know what I mean? Every one of those pages is like panels, and it's just amazing. Ton of artwork goes into one book. So.
No two pages alike.
Nope. Can't cut and paste those heads.
I went crazy with the 9-panel grids on this issue because I had a lot of story to cover, and it's actually, I mean, obviously, Alan Moore, perfected it with Watchmen, but I was reading Warren Ellis's run on Iron Man, the Extremist series.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It was the first time I ever specifically noticed that he was going through, and the action sequences would be 3 or 4 tiers. The widescreen look of comics have been pop over the past few years. And then all the dialogue sequences were 9-panel grids. So it's like action, he gave it room. When you have people that are just yakking, he's like, let's just cram it in. Just get it in and get it out. And I realize that that's the thing, is there's going to be times when it's not necessarily exposition, but there's going to be times where it's not going to be fight scenes or something super exciting happening. So for those moments where it really is kind of character and expression, go ahead and make room for dialogue and just get as many panels on the page as possible so you can get through those scenes quicker and get back to the exciting scenes.
That's interesting, yeah. That's a good point.
Like I know in Warren Ellis's blog, he compared a lot of the visual storytelling as like writing a song in terms of like there's beats and you've got your solos and your bridge, you've got your rhythm section. So it's kind of like, if you've got something where you're just kind of chugging along. It's like, that goes da 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 da, and then you've got your splash page. It's like you're
Cool. That's it's a very American style.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can pick up a book of anime, a manga, and it would be 3 panels on every page. But it will take 40 pages to tell anything, or 40 pages of action. It's like everything just extremely drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. Just the pacing completely different than modern comics, and then even that's different than the way Will Eisner was shoving a whole Spirit story into 8 pages. It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, extreme condensed storytelling.
Yeah. I'm amazed by that kind of stuff, like the older stuff, just how much story they could just wedge into. They're like full TV shows, 8 pages. It's amazing,
With tons of text.
Yeah, tons of text, but also a lot of good visual storytelling too. Like especially with like Will Eisner,
Oh
and
yeah.
Spirit and stuff. So much of that stuff was carried by the visuals and stuff. I don't know. Well, we got to let Peter go to sleep.
You gotta go night, and yes, I should probably turn it soon too. But I'm like now I'm got my arms deep in this gray tones. I kind of want to go for a little bit longer.
Nice.
But, I'll do that. I'll do that. That'll be my me time.
There you go.
Cool.
All right, guys. It's been fun.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Yes. To anybody watching, like, comment, share, and if you're an artist, then come on to a show. We'd love to have you. Join the Artcasters group. All links will be down as soon as I get to it. And that's it. It's Artcasters Chat 9. See ya.
See you guys.
Night.